Evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled public meeting of March 19, 2018 of the Township of Washington Township Council. Adequate notice of the meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in January, and this notice has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board and on the Township website. Please notify the Township Clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at Mayor and Council meetings. Fire exits are located through the double doors to your right and through the door to your left. Please silence all cell phones. Would you please rise for salute to the flag?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Here.
Councilman Casio?
Here.
Councilman Cumming?
Here.
Councilman Ullman?
Here.
Council President DeSena?
Here. Approval of the minutes for November 27, 2017 public meeting minutes and November 27, 2017 conference meeting minutes. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second, with a question.
Sure.
Ken,
Yeah.
on one of these minutes, I'm not sure which one, but there was a note about the Luke oil and diesel fuel, but they were supposed to come before the town with some sort of, I'm not sure if it was a certificate or some sort of presentation, or it was in one of the minutes here. I just wondered if they ever showed up with anything.
Well, they were not going to, they volunteered, there's no prohibiting them from selling the diesel. I mean, they can, it's, the ordinance permits filling stations and that's it.
Okay.
However, they are prohibited from having signs. And if they want signs, they have to go to the planning board to get approval.
They have a sign
Oh,
up.
they did go?
Yeah, they do have a sign up.
For the diesel?
Yes, they have a green diesel sign up as of a month ago.
In their pricing thing?
In their pricing.
That wasn't considered new because the pricing thing was
But it's still a diesel sign.
already up.
Does it say diesel?
Yes, it says diesel.
It says DSL.
DSL.
This morning.
Well, they should take it
Well, it's been
down.
like that for, you
Well,
know.
that should come down. Well,
So we have the proper.
well, actually, wait a second, is it the,
In the pricing
Is it
guidelines.
the same sign they had before? In other words, is it a new sign or a same sign?
I would think it would be considered a variation of their sign. It's the big sign that gives their name, and then it comes down and it has various grades.
Yeah,
But
like
it's now green, it's colored green, which
Yeah, they
it never
changed
was
the sign.
before.
Yeah.
There were room,
Yeah.
Ken, for 3 prices.
Right,
Heretofore,
right,
they
right.
only had the
So,
2,
okay,
so they just
so
added
yeah,
the
yeah.
3rd, but
No,
there was
they-
always a spot
Yeah,
for it. So.
they shouldn't be doing that.
Okay.
We should.
All right, I'll
Yeah.
let them know or have Gary go
Yeah.
down. Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Mr. Bruno, does that answer your
That's
question?
fine? Yep.
So the minutes are okay? Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Abstain?
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Abstain. Special meeting minutes of February 26, 2018 budget, March 3rd, 2018 special meeting minutes budget. Can I have a motion, please, to approve?
Motion. Second.
Any
No.
discussion? Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. At this time, I'd like to have a motion to open the meeting up to the public.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. At this time, if anybody from the public would like to step up and address the council, we just have a 5-minute time limit.
Mary Ann Osmond, 960 Adams Place. I only have 2 things. I see the clock, and we went back and forth, Mrs. Grau, in reference to the fact that there was a problem with daylight savings time. To be honest with you, I knew that the last time I came here, and then I was told that they were just going to fix the one problem, not to worry about it for right now. But again, if somebody had listened, I knew there was going to be a problem with that, and maybe that could have been worked out, besides the point. Second thing, the cracks on my street. Now, they did what, I guess the fix is worse than what the problem was. They did the crack seal program. And they came and they did the wiggly lines and tried to fill in all the cracks. But does anybody know, or does anybody come back and tell you why there was a problem, why there were so many cracks in one street in such a short period of time? Does anybody,
We didn't get that, no. I can ask.
well, if there are other cracks in streets, you mean nobody ever asks? I think people should ask to find out what the problem is. I've had 6 or 7 water main breaks on the 3 houses that have all these cracks over the course of years. And that water main, every time they come, they say, oh, this is an old one, this should be fixed, this should be fixed, this should be fixed. And of course, it's never fixed. So, I mean, I really would think that maybe these people who put down our roads, when they come back, and I presume they're the ones who came back, correct?
Yes.
When they come back, they could at least give a report to someone so that the council knows why this is happening. I mean, is it inferior work? Is it the street itself? I just think it's something that the council should look into.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman.
Are the cracks on the side of the street, the middle, or?
Oh, they're in the middle, they're all up and down, from curb to curb, some of them are not, some of them are just sections in the middle. But a year and a half, it's only a new street.
Yeah.
So now I have to look at this crack seal program, which they tried on Richard Boulevard East years ago. And it was like riding on a, where you have the bumper strips, you go bump, 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 and you know, it's not the best thing in the world for a brand new street. I think this is the part that bothers me. If it wasn't a brand new street and they had to do that, I understand. What happened to Richard Boulevard East when they did it, it had been about 10 or 15 years and they thought, well, maybe we'll save our streets by doing the crack, you know,
But that was 10, 15 years later.
yeah, crack seal program. And it didn't work. And they knew it didn't work. They did it once and there were so many complaints about what it felt like because there were so many cracks in the road by that time that they didn't continue it on with any other, you know, street in town. So it's just something to, you know, maybe look into.
Yeah, my guess is, I don't think, I'm not sure if we took the cheap way out or not, but I don't think it was ever milled properly. You know, if you watch what they do the sides, they leave the middle, so you always have that hump in the middle. And my street too had a strip going right through the middle too, and they did it last year.
Well, Hoover Avenue
If
has
we
a
don't,
very
if we
large
don't,
one.
if we don't mill the entire roadway, the crack will reflect from the old to the new, and that's probably what's happening. But we will
It's
have
just
to have
a shame
Mr.
now
Satil, we'll have to have Mr. Satil confirm that that is the problem. Because if we
You
did
know,
not mill the
it's-
middle of the road, it's just reflecting through.
Yeah, it's just a shame that now after only being in a year and a half of having a beautiful street,
It reflects through.
now we have to sit here and for the next 20 years, because you're not going to do the streets again, I'm going to have that look.
Not always possible,
Okay,
sure.
thank you.
Anybody else like?
Excuse me, Mr. DeSena, just
Yes.
on that note, is it possible to request that we receive an update on why it's happening? If
That's what I just asked.
Okay.
I'm going to reach out to Mr. Statil.
I think in lieu of the new paving program going out, we need to review this a little bit more detail, because the savings from not milling the center of the street is going to happen over and over, because the cracks will just reflect from the old crack to the new crack, and it's going to happen in under a year. So if we don't mill it out, it's just going to reflect through.
Is that much more, Michael?
No, it's gonna, and the roads are getting, the crown in the road is getting high also by doing what we're doing, so. There's advantages and disadvantages, and one of the disadvantages is that you get reflective cracking, but we did save on milling costs and some tonnage, but you gotta balance both and see which, and at this point, I think we know the answer that this is not the way to go. So hopefully we'll make a decision to not do that in this year's program. Sorry,
My
but,
turn?
yes, your turn.
Cynthia Cannon, 804 Manhattan Avenue. I would like to commend the police department and the DMF on the wonderful job that they did on Manhattan Avenue. I live right there when the tree went down and the telephone and all the wires and my electricity and my heat and everything else. But my only question is that the street, everything was dark. So when they came up the hill, the police had put up barricades, but the barricades did not have any reflective tape or anything on them. And I saw one fellow come out from wherever he came out of and came up the street and wasn't looking, and everything was white, and he literally almost just slammed into the barricade. But other than that, I had nothing to complain about. I thought they did a fabulous job. They were right there. They really got it together really quickly. But now with all the lovely debris from the trees, when do we, and where do we, because I heard you say at the March 17th budget meeting that you were going to get another chipper.
We're
We're going to get a chipper.
American
We're going to get a
address
chipper.
Yes.
Yes, so that, because I would like to see it used instead of thrown into the landfill. But
So would I.
what do we do in the meantime?
It's going to have to continue the way it is because we don't have a chipper at this time, and our personnel is not trained in the chipper, so.
No, we already went through that once. Yeah.
Well,
We had a chipper once upon a time.
Once we get the proper training and we somehow get a chipper, well start chipping
Okay,
the
so we
branches.
should still be throwing the debris into...
We have no other choice at this
Okay.
time.
And that includes those enormous...
Those will not go in the garbage truck, no.
Because I looked at it today when they started cutting that down, and I went, uh-oh, where's that going to go? That could be some nice table or end tables or something like that. Okay, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council? Sure.
Hi, everybody. Tony Plantamura, 808 Robinwood Road. Just two things. There's a sign that I'm confused that says "Field Closed" on the fencing on Memorial Field facing Pascack Road. Why is that sign there?
I personally didn't know it was there.
It's
Nor
been
do
there.
I.
It's been there for a long time.
But what is the purpose of the "Field Closed" sign being there and the rest of them say that they're open? I don't understand.
I'll find out from DMF tomorrow
It's
why
the one on
there.
Pascack Road. It
Yeah,
does say
okay.
field closed. You are correct.
Okay, can somebody get back to me on why it says that?
Sure.
And why it's posted? And the other thing, I just wanted to give my input. I've already said this, but I know you're going to go forward, like all of a sudden there's this found money and the intersections being discussed. But I firmly believe that in order to address that intersection, it should coincide with the opening up of a exit, a more northerly exit on the Parkway. To me, it's almost like if you fix that intersection and the flow of traffic gets better, it's almost inviting more traffic to come to our town to use our intersection without the problem being addressed on a more northern exit off of the Parkway. Everybody knows that Wegmans is up there now. It is incredible the amount of development that's going on in this Pascack Valley area. I really feel that it's going to ruin our small-town communities. I do. I just do. And I believe that you really should think twice about fixing that intersection and not also coinciding, looking that into what can be done about getting a exit north of us so that it encourages people to use that exit and not our improved intersection area, because that's what it's going to do. It's going to cause more traffic to come and get off of exit 168 because of the improvement there. And who knows if it's really going to improve that much of the flow of traffic, because I think there's a lot more traffic that's going to come to this area. All the stuff is being built, or it's going to be built in this immediate area. It's just something I wish would happen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time?
Evening, Mr. President. Fred Getz, 587
Good evening, Mr.
Washington
Getz.
Avenue, Township of Washington. A couple things. I just wanted to first get an update on the Washington Avenue paving. Has there been any, because it involves my curbing being done as well, so I'm wondering if there was any update or if we heard anything back from the county on that.
I believe Mr. Azzalina is working with the county. Last I talked to him, I asked to make sure it was a priority for him to work on the curbs and the sidewalks.
Okay.
I forwarded the information that the former engineer had provided after he had walked with the county person, and Mr. Azzalina had some questions and concerns about the completeness of that list. That was the last I heard, so I can follow up with him on that.
Okay. I appreciate it. I'll keep checking back.
Okay.
Second thing, I was wondering when the next street sweeping was scheduled for, because I know there's still snow on the ground and might be still this week, but I know the branches and everything created a big mess, and
I don't know that there's been any discussion. It was done right before the storm, so
Right.
I don't know if there's any plan for one now.
Yeah, I'd like to coordinate that with the DMF to see how they're doing with branch pickup and like that. You know, and with, like you said, another impending snowstorm. You know, let me say right now, I would say sometime in April, but I don't know, beginning, middle, end. But.
That's what I figured. I just, again, and they've been doing a great job with the branch pickup. I still see some out there, but they were brought out later, so they did come by and pick those up. But I did want to also bring to your attention with regard to the street sweeping, the last one that was done, I watched them. I don't know if they need to, how do I put this mildly? They probably have to empty their load more often than they want to, so
Okay.
I tend to see them kind of going around the big piles of debris
Really?
on the
Okay,
side of the
that's not
road,
good.
and I watched them going down my whole road 4 feet out because they didn't want to pick up the stuff. So it's just something that I think should be brought to your attention because I know we're contracting out, but you know, I'm assuming with this debris being a big issue on the next one, that could probably become an issue.
Okay, and in the future, feel free, please, to let us know as it's happening, because it's the best way to fix it, because then they're out of town and it's too late. Last
Right.
year, when people complained, they redid many of the streets that people complained about.
Right.
So,
I will next
Okay,
time.
okay.
It's the first time I noticed it, so.
okay, thank you.
Third thing, just briefly, I know Ms. Diambra has brought it up quite a bit, and some other residents have brought it up, the crosswalks on Pascack, especially the one, or the ones at the shopping center. And in Ms. Diambra's words, I'm paraphrasing, but everyone speeds through there and doesn't even slow down and doesn't even notice that there's any crosswalks. I noticed that all the other crosswalks on Pascack, or most of the other ones, had striping across them. And the ones that are at the shopping center, and also the ones I think at Ridgewood, do not. And I think that might be a factor in that they look like stop lines for the light as opposed to crosswalks. So that might be something in the spring. You might want to talk to the DMF, but striping those, or I don't know if the county does, if it's a county road, especially because there's a lot of high school students walking at Ridgewood Road, especially crossing there. So that might be the reason why they don't slow down for those and they slow down for the others. I thought I'd bring it to the attention of the council and the administration. The fourth thing, I know I'm probably running out of time.
You got 1.5 minutes.
1.5 minutes. I noticed Mr. Toomey was here speaking on behalf of the rec department with regard to the budget meetings. I did get a chance to finally watch one. I was wondering, because I did see the reorganization meeting, and it was my understanding that he and some other positions were not granted consent and approval of the council, albeit appointed by the mayor. I'm wondering why still here if that's the case.
As per Mr. Poller, he remains there in a holdover position
Okay.
until the mayor reappoints somebody else, but the council has not given advice and consent, like you said.
Okay. My understanding, and again, I am an attorney, but maybe I'm wrong. My understanding of the case law with regard to the Faulkner Act, because I have done quite a bit of research on the Faulkner Act, is that appointments end at 12 midnight on New Year's Eve, and that there is no such thing as a holdover position. And I'm wondering where that concept comes from.
Well, you haven't done much research then, because directors are especially treated under section 43 of the statute. Take a look at it. It's specific. There's a case on it. It's absolutely specific that the directors are holdovers. They're treated-
Which case?
Huh? No, Casamano was your case. No, that was the case that I distinguished. No, If you look up the statute on directors, it'll bring you right to the case.
All right, because Councilmano is a different case.
Councilmano is
Sharp James versus
It's
Newark.
not Sharp James, it's not Sharp James.
That also specifically addresses contracts and mayor's powers, but
No.
I believe Myers was, Myers versus Township of West Caldwell says those exact words, that at 12 o'clock midnight, those positions end. That had to do with Board of Health.
Yeah, except for directors of departments which are specifically governed by the statute.
Okay.
Section 43 of the statute, and if you take a look at that, there's a case right under it. Matter of fact, there's maybe two cases, but there's a case right on it. And it came up where one mayor appointed, there was a holdover, they wouldn't appoint, and there is no obligation on the part of, there are absolute holdovers. It's part of the organic law of the Faulkner Act.
Okay.
And there is no obligation to continue to come forth with alternatives from the mayor's position.
And even if there is, and I may be mistaken, with all due respect, even the case James versus, which you are familiar with, I know you've cited it to me on several occasions.
Yes.
That specifically says that it is self-evident that because the council was dealing with the interest of the, in that case, corporation attorney, it was self-evident that the council needed separate counsel to advise them.
Only because, not in a general sense, only in the sense that there was a suit by the council against the mayor. And that was a very specific reason why they said that they could have counsel. But they are not allowed to have counsel otherwise. It's very specific about that also. If you read the entire case, you'll see that.
I'm familiar with the case.
And I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on it. I did the case and I did the research. But if you take a look at section 43, Fred, it'll give you the case right on point.
To cut to the chase, what is the plan then? What is the, does a holdover sit indefinitely?
A
Is that what
holdover can sit indefinitely.
that is your advice to the council?
That is my giving of the statute and the case law.
Because don't you think there's a conflict there that the council might need other counsel when it involves your position?
Well, I did say at the end of my opinion, if they want further opinions, I'd be happy to get them for them. But I was asked to give my opinion, so I gave my opinion.
That kind of, I would think, again, with all due respect, I would think that presents the appearance of impropriety. The council should be allowed to select an attorney separate when it involves the position of the attorney. I mean, where else are they going to get?
It involved the position of director, actually. It involved director of all the directors, 9 directors, 4 or 5 directors were not, the consent was not given. And to tell you the truth, Fred, it's so clear on its face that I'd be happy to have another attorney look at it, but it's as clear as day. I mean,
if that's the case, then that's the case. But I would think that it would behoove both you and the council to consider an alternate opinion when it involves anything having to do with employment or independent contractor of that position. I'm sure my time's up, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come up?
Got 100%.
5 for 5.
Diane Grimaldi, 441 Van Emberg Avenue. I'm wondering when our ordinances are going to be codified into the general code book. I was trying to find an ordinance that I thought had passed in, I believe, beginning of 2012, and I couldn't find it. And then in the general code, I saw a section that said new laws section, which I had never noticed before. And it said, once law has been codified, it will no longer appear in this section. And it started with ordinances from 2014. And I do believe that's probably when they started putting them on this section. I think they go back even further. And really, you can't use the general code because we have 48 ordinances under new laws and probably more going back. It's a worthless document as far as I'm concerned, the general code. And I was just wondering when there's been so much talk about it being codified.
Yeah, it's in process. I did speak with General Code recently. They're targeting something within the next, I'm going to say, few months. I don't want to say 2 because I don't want somebody to come up and say, okay, now 2 months have gone by, whatever. But the indication I have, it's a matter of months for them to get their next manuscript out.
Everything's been submitted?
The initial edits were submitted, and there are still a couple that I'm trying to get finalized through various departments.
I mean, they're ordinances. They're supposed to be submitted to general code and then
Yeah, but
put
the part of the codification process is to get rid of old stuff that's not in the law anymore or where the law has changed. So, for example, the health department, I'm not exactly an expert in health, in the health department, so the law has changed, and I've reached out to our health officer from Northwest to go over that and find out if we could be updating that section. That's one of the sections that we're still working on, and there's no problem with, getting that updated during this period of time. Most everything else is pretty well done.
it's done in their hands, but it hasn't been put
Correct.
into the general code.
That's correct. I mean, they have to generate, there's a process. They have their word. They've had it since, they've had it for several months. They've had it quite a while, and they're working on it.
But we're talking since 2012. It should really be an ongoing.
Well, it's not an ongoing codification change. What's ongoing is that they're supposed to get the updated ordinances as they get passed, and they're supposed
Right.
to incorporate that into the code. That's their job.
And then annually.
Yeah. But the codification process that I'm talking about is a redo of the entire code.
Well, the codification process, I just want to be able to go on the general code and find current ordinances. And, okay, so now it's just a couple more months.
I didn't say couple, I said few. Remember? I specifically said, I'm not going to use the word couple, few.
Can we reach
That's
out,
what they said.
Mr. Pollard, to General Code and see if we can set a June 1st deadline for them?
I can't really set a deadline,
No?
Mike, because
No.
they have their process. They have people working on it, and it's at the tail end of things. So
Okay, so
it's
we're at
not,
the end.
I'd like to see it done, but they're working on it, and
It's because they've had to do years' worth, but from here, moving forward, they're going to do it on a more consistent basis.
No, that's not my understanding. My understanding is what I just said. I thought that what happens is we have general code and we send ordinances to general code, and they incorporate that in our, in the code.
In the
itself-
code
in the code book.
But that hasn't been done in years and years.
Well, no, I think that, Mary, did you send the
Ken, can you-
ordinances?
No, it wouldn't be me, it would be Sue.
No, Sue. I said-
Now that
Oh, I'm
makes
sorry,
sense.
Mary.
No, can you, Sue's got a response, Mrs. Grimaldi.
I've spoken to General Code about that exact item, and what we're going to do is, once the codification project as a whole being recodified, everything up until that point, be it if it's April, May, June, July, whatever of this year, will be codified. And moving forward, I have requested that at least twice, if not 3 times a year, every time I send up an ordinance, it gets thrown into the main code book, so we don't have those new laws. I can't stand them either. So, I will stay with them and work with them, but every time we pass an ordinance, it gets sent up, and you'll see it on that new law within,
Right.
it's like, usually within
And that's
72 hours,
fine.
it's up there.
Even if it's an annual basis and
Yeah.
everything is pending.
I don't even want an annual, because it's too much. You have to click and open every single thing, so I'm going to work with them, and it's all part of the process.
Thank
So,
you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask you a question? So last year, when we were doing this, I think I had given a deadline for all departments in the municipal town here, like in September, and I know I had responded to whatever you sent. Are we waiting for anybody here? Because you mentioned health, is that us?
Yeah, well, we didn't really have a health department to actually get input from, and I did finally get a contact to contact, was Angela Masella from Northwest. I've been in contact with her. I sent her the provisions that needed to be updated. She was going to get back to me, so I'm still working on that. There were also, part of what I'm doing also is I'm actually going over, because we can still make some edits, that kind of thing, in terms of small things. And a couple things I asked I asked Paul Azzolina to just give me a couple of things that had come up from the planning board, zoning board aspect of things, just to put it in there as long as we're doing the codification. So, I mean, we're not waiting for anything else. It's not us. It's not us that's holding it up. And even this health part is not holding them up. They're doing their work anyway, and this is not holding them up.
Anything else, John? Seeing nobody else, anybody else? I have to ask. Motion to close? Motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.
Mr. DeSena, just on some of the comments that were raised,
Sure.
is it possible for the administration to reach out to the Turnpike Authority to see if they've had any change or thoughts on an exit north of
I can
168?
I can speak to that. The Turnpike Authority is not going to proceed until the referendum in Woodcliff Lake is done by the voters before they'll proceed with any judgment on that. So the Woodcliff Lake has to pass a referendum before they can open that exit.
I'm not talking about opening that particular exit. Are there any plans for additional exits, given that, DiPiero's has now been
Not on the
redeveloped?
10-year plan, no.
And all the development, the higher density housing that's going in there, there's no plans? given
As of right now, the intersections have been all widened up in that area for the DiPiero's, but there is no 10-year plan to open up any more exits. And the exit that Mrs. Plantamora was talking about will only be addressed once Woodcliff Lake passes a referendum giving them permission to open that right-hand movement.
Which is not going to happen.
I would think you are correct, it's not going to happen, but I can't speak for the residents of Woodcliff Lake.
Okay. The other thing is regarding the, striping. When they redo Washington, would they consider putting a stripe box in front of Myskin's? Myskin, is that it? Myston. Because a number of individuals have indicated that they cannot pull out of the streets because people going east, yes, back up and get right on top of the car in front of them, and they don't have the ability to pull out and make a left turn. So I was just wondering if they're considering redoing the street and installing DuraBlend in that area. Would they consider putting a traffic control box so that...
But do not block the box.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, can we include that in our negotiations with them with the DuraBlend, as Mr. Ullman's asked?
Thanks.
That's a great idea, Mr. Ullman.
Yeah, and Mike, on your other comment about the exits, I'll bring it up at my next mayor's meeting. Maybe all of us towns can send something to the authority, just letting them know that there's 10 towns that probably, are combined in seeing that effort. So
Okay.
carry a little more weight than just us doing it.
Thank you.
Again, I'm not trying to be pessimistic about it, but the ordinance is very well crafted that shut that right-hand movement down, and it clearly says to get it back, a referendum in the Township of Woodcliff Lake, or Town of Woodcliff Lake has to pass before anybody can entertain it.
Yeah, I meant more
So-
if they would consider, like Michael said, opening another exit. Again, I know that's a long shot, but at least if we send a
There's nothing in
letter.
the 10-year plan.
Yeah, it can't hurt to send a letter.
Absolutely,
Get that
that's right.
file.
Mike, can I ask a
Sure,
question?
Mr. Brown.
Just one other thing regarding the highway. The, right by the old toll bridge, or the tolls, like 168, seems to have become a dumping ground now for all their trucks.
It is it's designated a contractor staging area
Since when? Do you know?
since the tolls were removed from there.
So we can't do anything with that? I mean, it's really just become a...
Once the construction at 172 is done, it'll be gone.
What's it?
Not 172, at Route 17.
163.
It's the contractor staging area for the Route 17 project.
But I was there before that.
No, it's been there,
So it's going to stay there until they finish
the
that?
pavement will remain, but.
Do we know when they're finishing that? Because it seems
I
like
think
they're
it's
in a
6
way.
months away.
6 months? Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen, Mr. Clement?
No, sir.
Under ordinances, adoption of second,
Will it be close?
yeah, we took the roll call already. Ordinances, adoption, second reading, none. Introduction, first reading, ordinance number 18-02, an ordinance amending fees for summer recreation program activities and related services. Motion to introduce and pass ordinance number 18-02 at first reading by title. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Calamari?
Nope.
How do I have you down there?
I just saw that myself.
Hello?
It's in both spots.
I'm there. I was a bad cut and paste, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Councilman Bruno?
Yeah, I just have a comment. My answer is no, but my problem is that we put this summer rec ordinance together with some new fees, and I understand why we did it, but I'm not really sure what the rest of the fees are for the rest of the programs. And, you know, it seems like we're piecemealing this, and we have the other ones out there that I had sent some schedules regarding the amount of money we spend. And my feeling is that, you know, this rec fee program should be part of all the fees, and we should understand once and for all what we take in and what we spend and what the fee should be. So that's my comment, so my answer is no.
Okay. Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
No.
Councilman Oben?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Resolution number 18-180, authorizing publication of ordinance number 18-02 and schedule public hearing. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
No.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Oben?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Individual resolutions, Resolution 18-173, emergency temporary appropriation for PERS and PFRS. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Before we
Sure.
go
Mr.
forward,
Ullman.
is this an addition? Is this, 'cause I thought we had an appropriation in the initial temporary budget.
No, the thing is, you can never do it in your temporary budget because it would basically consume your temporary budget, which is limited by law to 26.25%. This is always handled in this fashion. These are one-shots that are due by the end of the month, and in some towns, you know, people have the budgets in place by then. Just also too, that today I had to add police other expenses, $2,000. That was because they had an unforeseen expense in connection with their computer support, their IT support. When we pulled the contract for the town hall, do you have that amended one? Sue, they're all looking like
They got it on the days.
Okay. When we switched over our IT support for the administration and everything non-police, the company who was servicing the police insisted that there be a contract in place for the police that previously hadn't been there. It had been as it occurred, and the chief couldn't risk losing them, so we were on a retainer, if you will, with the other company.
That's the first line item, the $2,000.
That's the first line item, yes.
What is it for? What contract?
It's for IT services for the police. The police have their own server and have their own issues that are, related. They need, special security, and the chief was concerned that if the other company pulled out, we wouldn't be able to fill the gap. And so we will at some point explore migrating over to the company that we have for the rest of the building. But we had no choice in the matter at the time.
So this is a month-to-month?
No, it's, what was it, Peter? Is it 6 month? It's a half-year increments?
Half-a-year increments, I forget offhand what
There's-
we pay for the half year.
It was prorated, it was about 2,100 something dollars. And the original budget for that line was 265. So, anyway, this is for a 6-month period.
And who have we retained to do that work?
It's the same company they've been using for years, DART.
Dart?
Yes. That's who the chief feels comfortable with. He installed all of their computers about a year and a half ago. And there's some, I guess, special need issues related to having a police network as opposed to just a general network. And like I said, for the time being, we're staying with them, but we're going to evaluate our options. I think the mayor's agreeing here.
Yes.
And really, without that, because right now they have about less than $100 left in their other expenses line. So to get them through till the budget's adopted.
So I guess, I don't know, we just made a major change, didn't we, with this organization? Chris, we weren't happy, but then we give them a 6-month contract.
We were between a rock and a hard place, and this is Chief Hooper's recommendation, and he urged that we keep them on as their IT provider for the police department.
Did we explore if the other company can do it?
They couldn't, because they hadn't come in to do our computers yet, and that's, right now.
Not that they couldn't do it now, but can they provide that service in the future, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yes, they can. They're
Okay.
capable.
All right.
They have other police departments
So
that
this-
they service.
so this
This might be a
Yes.
stopgap.
Yes, it's exactly
Okay.
a stopgap.
Okay.
Because we were going to have literally and figuratively the plug pulled on us if we didn't reach an arrangement with the other
Okay.
company.
You know, I suggest that we look for other
I think
avenues to go.
I think we should put it all together. as
Absolutely.
One.
Right.
And we've been very pleased with the
new vendor?
The new vendor. As, you know, there's typical hiccups that you would expect, but he's working through them all.
Anything else, Jonathan?
I just feel, so I understand we have to do this, but when our vendors have a knife in our back, I don't think that's really a position we want to be in. I mean, I don't know who said they're going to pull the plug, but, you know.
The vendor.
So if they had said, we want 20,000 for 6 months, would we have done it?
No, actually,
No.
Peter negotiated them down.
Yeah, and again, it's not necessarily costing much more because the new provider will up his rates to add those computers on. So it's not costing us a lot more than it will with the new provider, right? They charge
Yeah.
us per computer.
And
if
the
I'm not
chief is
mistaken.
happy with the services of the other company, so,
I understand that, but I think we want to try to get everything into. one-
Absolutely.
Yeah, mhm,
Absolutely.
That's the long-term plan.
Yeah. Anything else, Mr. Holman?
And that was it.
And this amount's an annual amount, the 833,
No, 6 months, like,
or 6 months?
yeah, well, actually, it's not necessarily for these, that's expenditure's already been made, but
No,
to
the other amount, the big amount.
Oh, yeah, that's a one-time,
that's a year.
that's a
For the
year.
year.
Yeah, one time, that's for the year. And the amount for the PERS is actually, when it's paid, is split between the library and us, and the town.
Anything else, Mr. Burrow?
Actually, you know what? I need to make a correction on the fly. This was prepared by the finance office, and it does not reflect that it's the pension liability is coming out of 2 lines, and I can do that right now. I can split that 160 has to be split between the library and the, okay. It should read, there should be another line in there, library pension. The total amount will not change. Library pension will now be $31,306.
Do you have to do this tonight?
Yes, because she's got to pay it, unless we're going to have the meeting before the 28th. She's got to pay it by the 28th. 31,307.63, and the line item PERS pension liability will go down to bear with me.
129.
129, 583, 556.
That number again, please?
129, comma, 583.53.
56.
5-6.
56, yes. 56.
And the PFRS stays the same, right?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? I think we just need to, no, just one other comment. I think we need to have some, Mr. Mayor, we need some kind of a list of when these contracts are expiring and when they need to be negotiated, so we're not
You
putting...
mean going back to like the IT one?
Going back to the IT, I
Yeah.
think we need some kind of rolling list of when maintenance contracts like this are expiring.
Just so you know, Michael, there was no contract, and in
Okay.
fact, I had asked him for a
part of the problem.
contract as part, I asked him for a proposal in connection with the town hall,
Okay.
just to have another quote in the file, and he told me, I don't do contracts.
Okay.
And then on the heels of this, then we,
Then he-
yeah,
okay.
it was not
Okay.
handled.
Just, I'd rather not have to be put in this position
Yeah.
to do this, you know, and the same thing with the other two items. We can confirm that they're correct before we get the document next time.
And if we're in a position where we can leave, I would confer with Mr. Pollard to see if we can break that contract because of the circumstances it was entered into. There's nothing really signed, but.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else, gentlemen?
No.
Roll call, Mr. Council.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Consent agenda, all of the following items have been determined to have the unanimous consent of the council and will be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from consent agenda. Resolution 18-174, authorize refund of construction permit fees, Block 250201, Lot 1702, AKA 2 Rose Court. Resolution 18-175, authorize refund of overpayment of taxes, Block 1101, Lot 5, AKA 77 Gorga Place. Resolution 18-176, authorize refund of engineering escrow monies for Block 4407, Lot 3, AKA 307 Colonial Boulevard. Resolution 18-177, authorize refund of engineering escrow monies for Block 4102, Lot 5, AKA 769 Coke Peak Drive. Resolution 18-178, authorize the mayor to execute grant agreement for ADA parking at Clark and Gardner Fields. Resolution 18-179, authorize refund of overpayment of taxes, Block 2502.01, Lot 17, AKA 191 Linwood Avenue. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Where is the parking going to be at Gardner and Clark on the street?
No, in the gravel parking areas.
For Gardner also?
Yes,
At the end of the block.
at the end of the block by the field.
That dead-end street, they're going to put handicap parking in there?
Yes.
It's only like two or three spots. It's not a huge.
I think it's 2 spots per
Two
field.
spots with the van
Per
accessible in the
field.
middle. 2 spots with the van accessible space in the middle.
And this is, we're making the application
No, actually, you all approved the application at the end of the last year. This was, the former mayor had identified that there were unprogrammed funds available for CDBG. That's where projects come in under budget, or there's administrative costs that are not expended. And there was a pot of funds, and we quickly scrambled to get an application together. Council approved the application, and we were awarded it, and the constraints are that it has to be completed by the end of February 2019. Mr. Azzalina has been consulted, and he gave me a project schedule that puts the project towards the end of the year after the summer. It's non-matching.
Free money. You want to call it that?
Yeah, Mayor Sopwitz had approached me at the end of 2017 and asked what could be done at both parks, and we both agreed that there's a problem with handicap parking spaces at both fields, and I worked with Mr. Steele to put the numbers together.
I mean, I'm sure it was put before us. I honestly don't remember it, but okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I did not realize you were involved, but that's good.
Yeah. Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Could I have a motion to go into adjournment for conference agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman
Roll call.
Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. First thing under administration, we have the project tracker.
I wasn't planning to present. If you have questions,
Oh,
I guess. No.
The only two things I was going to ask was about the doors. Where are we with the doors to the building, Mary? I don't see it on there.
Yeah, it is. It's actually, there's
On the
two-sided.
flip side.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we're going to be able to proceed with one quote because we had made actually Herculean efforts to get multiple quotes. I've just been pressing, I have to document the efforts. So I had asked Bill and Patty to get me the detail so we can proceed. I just received, actually, the same vendor provided a quote for the front doors to Town Hall, and I think some of the other doors. I haven't had a chance to go over it with Mayor Calamari, but I'm hoping we can do that as well. As, again, if we can establish that we tried to get a second quote and were unsuccessful. The problem is, like, a lot of times there were phone calls, and at the time we thought we were going to get the quotes, so he wasn't really paying. Notes weren't really made as to who came when, so we're trying to reconstruct what happened. But it looks like we're ready to proceed. There were 3 choices given for the front door for the police department. The chief picked what he liked the best, and
Are we looking at all? I think the chief said the back door also.
yes, there's 3 doors for the
So it's the 2 front doors right at the main entrance.
right, and then
The
one
2
a
doors,
basement
one
door,
in the
and then one ground level. That's the side entrance where they go through.
And also the main doors to the police department, right?
Well, that's what I meant with the 2 doors. The
And
police
then what about our
department.
2 front doors?
Our 2 front doors are a separate estimate, and then there's some other doors in the complex that I have to again discuss with the mayor.
Okay.
But, and then we needed to send him up as a vendor. He just sent me those documents today.
Okay.
That was the LKL, whoever
it's
referred.
Leonard Corey, yes.
Is that the one you
Yes.
referred us? Thank you.
We'll be very happy with him. Mr. Pollard, any further action on Quest with our neighbors?
Yes, the suit was sent in for last week. I'm waiting for the return of the order to show cause back from the court.
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen, on the project tracker?
Just in terms of the intersection, you had detailed some of the steps. There was supposed to be a survey completed. Was that done? Do we know?
I didn't get a chance to check with Paul today, but last update he had given me was they expected to get everything to the county this past Friday. So I'll reach out to him tomorrow just to make sure that that happened. But if he didn't get back to me, chances are it went down.
Shall I remark on the Memorial Field?
It's
item?
on our council agenda, Mr. Cummings, so if you could wait a
I
second.
thought it was on the tracker.
Well, it's on the tracker, but I have it as a topic for our council agenda, so if
sure.
you could hold off.
Oh, sure.
Anything else on the project tracker, gentlemen? Mr. Bruno? Oh, nothing? Mr. Cassio?
Oh, I'm fine, no.
We okay to move on? Okay, now the first thing on our council agenda is Memorial Field update, Mr. Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Council President DeSena. I spent the afternoon with Mr. Lawler and Mr. Darrell from the DMF out at Memorial Field, and we took soil samples in 9 locations. Ms. Sue was kind enough to give me a tax map.
That was
to-
me. No? Sorry.
I'm not sure. I got a handful of them.
Long hair?
No, did you get it through the DMF?
I'm sorry?
Did you get it through the DMF?
No, I got a handful of papers from...
Oh, that's funny, we both did the same work, sorry.
Okay. At any rate,
Twice a week.
we took the soil samples all afternoon, which accounts for my ruddy suntan out in Memorial Field, and they're being sent off to Rutgers so that we can get samples of soil. If the email were working, you might all have seen a quotation from Dan at Perennial Lawn Care, who does several other school and municipal properties as far as chemical application. We have a pretty full program. I'd like to flesh it out. It's a preliminary quote, as his cover letter said, based on a conversation, trying to get a lot done in a very short period of time at the end of last week. I also spoke to Mr. Paul Imbarato of Let It Grow, who is currently donating services to the Clark Field, who told me several things, including the fact that 10 years ago we bid out the care of the fields and management of the fields to a company so that there was total care provided. And that he's going to look for those specifications, and perhaps we could look for those records. In the meantime, we're charging along as best we can with great rapidity, hoping that someday the weather will turn around and it's probably going to be 80 and the grass will need to grow. The thing that is not in my hands is the movement of some of the athletics off of the fields to give the grass a chance to grow. Because with all the success in the world, you can't bring a dead horse back to life if you're going to run around back and forth continually on it. But I'm getting tremendous cooperation out of the DMF and the administration. We've got our soil samples. They're on the way to Rutgers. We hope to get the results back very quickly, and I'm gathering quotes for treatment. And that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Gentlemen, at the last meeting, members of the public wanted to discuss the Memorial Field project. Can we allow them to come up and address us and give us further comment? Anybody have any objection to that?
Do you want to suspend the rules?
Do we need to suspend the rules, Ken? Can we suspend the rules so the public may address this topic?
Make a motion.
Can I have a motion to suspend the rules so the public can discuss this with us?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Cassio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes, thank you, gentlemen.
Do you want to open it?
Well, it's not really a public discussion, so it's, I mean, you've invited the public up, I think that's good enough.
That's good, right?
It's just,
Well, each of us are going to speak, but I think I'll start first, because I'm just going to give a general
Marianne,
overview.
state your name.
Oh, Mary Ann Osmond, 960 Adams Place. Sorry, I usually do that walking in.
I know.
You had the rest of your posse.
I will speak first because I'm going to give a general overview of exactly what happened on the committee that we were appointed to last year. I joined that committee in May 23rd, and the meetings were already in progress. They had started in April. Cindy was the last member of our committee, and at that point we had 11 members plus the Mayor Sopkowitz. In the beginning of the meetings, didn't have any minutes, and it was very much stacked for artificial turf until Tony, myself, and Cindy were put on it, it was more people on that committee were interested in just doing artificial turf. There wasn't very many open minds on that committee. We asked questions upon questions, and we didn't have any answers, and there was no real discussions. One example I'm only going to give, and this is one out of hundreds. Not necessarily that I asked, but people asked. I asked why Washington Township and Westwood football couldn't be combined. I was given answers that talked about league, the size of the town, weight restrictions. But we've changed leagues over the course of the years, and I understand this year we're in a brand-new league that one of our members is actually the head of, and his brother is the treasurer of, or I'm not sure, it was secretary. So we could try to go and, put these two towns together. It would be very important. Westwood has fields that we could use, and the mayor came here last year and offered that if, we had the children together. There were a lot of questions asked by David Twilliger, which was one of the members, and he just said it was all right that I used his name. And finally, when they were all answered, it was stated, and this is a quote, "There will be no merge of the program for football." This is what happened when we asked questions. We were told, no, it's not going to happen. We've done it before. You're wrong. Very difficult to work like that. The engineer was not present except when Mayor Soplowitz allowed it. We needed the engineer. It was very important because we had a lot of questions. There's a lot to do in the future with other fields. Westwood took their dump and they capped their dump and they made beautiful fields that are all natural. They're not artificial at all. And to be very honest with you, it took them years to do this. It was not a simple thing of, oh, we're going to cap the dump and, we're going to have lovely fields. Well, we needed our engineer to come. I would ask if this committee is going to continue, which I'm not sure it will, if the engineer, Paul, who knows our town and knows the vacant land we have better than anybody, if it could be possible that have him come to every meeting. Additional money may need to be put into the budget because of it. Because it's important to ask the questions. And what we do when we ask questions of Mr. Tatil, and he didn't come back for 4 or 5 meetings. So people forgot questions or he didn't have the answers, and it was a very difficult situation. A mission statement was done before I came on, and the committee didn't adhere to it at all. I mean, it was a pretty good mission statement, but no one had listened to it. Interim reports came and went, and the first one, finally, there was such a disagreement on it that what happened was we had to send it in September with 5 against votes on it and 5 for votes on it. Mr. Bruno was not allowed to vote. I don't understand why, but he just wasn't allowed to vote. Another letter went to council by the chairman without a date requesting an engineering study like MKW did. I was tired of hearing about MKW. That was 2011, 2012. Dr. Cassio, you started that all with MKW, and it was great, but that was old. I think we needed a new engineering study. We've talked about it at the meetings, and it seems to me that we didn't need to discuss what didn't happen. We need to discuss what can happen. It took 9 months of meetings to request this engineering report, and I don't understand why. We talked about in January, February, in great detail, grass experts. Cindy will talk about all her suggestions because she worked hours and hours and hours on trying to get together information in reference to grass experts from Rutgers. I joined this committee to help our children to have a safe place to play. Many good suggestions were made from the committee. I feel that the residents spoke when they turned down the referendum by over 800 votes. The chairman suggests the committee be disbanded, and obviously the mayor probably does agree. You don't make a subcommittee with all new members.
Please don't put words in my mouth.
You don't make a subcommittee with all new members. A subcommittee is made up of members of the committee to search specific areas and to report back to the committee. That's what a true subcommittee is. I'm sorry, what was done is not a true subcommittee. I would ask that the council keep this committee or form a new committee. I could go on and on and on, but I won't bother. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
So I'm going to touch on specific things that happened during our meetings that really hasn't been discussed too much in public. I want the general public who
Tony?
take
Just state your name, please.
Tony Plantamura, 808 Robinwood Road. I want the people that are watching at home to know that there's certain things that happened at our committees when we had meetings, and I find them highly questionable, some of the things that happened. I was in place on the committee, I believe, until the end of May or beginning of June. I can't remember the specific date. But I do remember that we did have a couple of times Mr. Steele and Mr. Dugan both said that they had turf friends who are experts and they were going to ask them to come and give their input on our committee. That never happened. And that was early on or mid when I got on back in 2017. There's a specific incident I'd like to mention because I find it highly questionable, and I'm going to bring this out. Dave Terwilliger on our meeting also told me that I could speak because he wasn't able to be here tonight. But apparently there was a meeting on June 12th of 2017 with representatives from the Westwood Regional School District as well as from the Township of Washington Recreation Department, who meant to discuss the following field requests from the Township of Washington. And I can't read it all, but there's certain specific fields on here that were actually suggested that the rec department in Washington Township could use. One of them was the high school. Even though they said it's limited to maybe they would be able to give him one night a week, I want to specifically mention why the high school did not grant permission to constantly play rec football on this field. It says, to preserve the safety and integrity of our playing fields, we rest our sod middle field in the spring and we do not overuse the field while the spring growing season replenishes the grass. We need flexibility with our scheduling. We may be able to schedule one night a week on this grass, Thursday or Friday, depending on the high school schedule. So I want to bring up the fact that the high school has certain guidelines where I don't understand why our rec department doesn't have certain guidelines to rest Memorial Field. It's a no-brainer. If you have grass field, you need to rest them. And this is not rested, this field. And also at this meeting, Brookside School was available for use. It says, right here, I have the memorandum in front of me, it says Brookside is available for use. The only thing that they asked is that safety nets be put up in order to ensure that nothing goes out into the street and for safety reasons. Also, the middle school A field, it was said that they were comfortable offering the field 2 nights each week beginning in April. And they would require also proper netting there to ensure the safety of the other permit users. So this was on June 12th of 2017. At our June meeting for our Memorial Field Committee, I remember specifically Mr. Toomey, our rec director, being asked if there was any availability of fields, and he said no. So I wanted to bring that out, that we have a representative of the Township of Washington that I basically feel didn't tell the truth at this meeting for us, because we're trying to get to the next level here. He's telling us that there were no fields available, and this memorandum states that there are fields available, okay? So I wanted to basically clarify that this is something very questionable. It says the Westwood School District is in favor of supporting the recreation feeder programs, and we do all we can to accomplish this. They let permits go for the Dragons youth soccer, and they are not comfortable having any type of daily football practices on their grass fields because the overuse destroys the field. Well, the overuse will destroy the field no matter how much money you spend on Memorial Field, including putting a Band-Aid of sod grass at the taxpayer's expense without a long-term plan. And Cindy's going to get into the long-term plan that we've been trying to do for the last year, and nothing ever came of it. Another thing that came up is We had also asked during our committee meetings when Madam Mayor was there for an actual cost of the breakdowns for Memorial Field. We only got an overview, and we never got, for a year almost, we were asking, and we never had the actual cost given to us. As a matter of fact, there was a statement made that we never got the figures, and the former mayor even alluded to the fact that maybe the figures were padded. So I want to use that term, padded. That's what the exact words were. So maybe they were padded to make it look like Memorial Field was being maintained, but we also believe that Memorial Field hasn't been maintained properly. It's been neglected. The other thing I want to bring up is the fact that the former mayor also alluded to the fact that they had to put a padlock on the well because they felt that it was being tampered with, the sprinkler system to water the fields. I've always thought that there was something wrong there because I have never seen sprinklers on in that field, and I always see a dust bowl. Well, maybe the dust bowl is there because the field was not being watered properly, thus a lock had to be put on that field. So I question, these were people that were on our Memorial Field Committee, and I question really what their agenda was if we were supposed to get to an alternative things that were supposed to be addressed on that field after the voters voted down the referendum for the artificial turf. There also was a reference that lacrosse couldn't play on the field because they needed lights and they get there late, but also Mr. Twilliger said that they are now renting, which we already know, that they are renting the arena in Paramus, and they get to practices prior to 5:30. So I don't know what happened there. They said they couldn't get there at 5:30 because at Memorial, because they have to get there late, thus the lights, but they're able to get to the arena and they come there earlier at 5:30. So that was another thing that I wanted to bring up. And we constantly asked to hire a turf expert, but this was never done. Mr. Dugan, who was our chairperson, I understand I was not there on the committee when he was appointed. I understand that it was not voted on. He just said that he would be the chairperson, and they went with it, or whatever happened there. I was not there to witness any of this. But I must say that we constantly discuss certain things that we were trying to get to the alternative, have information brought in, and Mr. Dugan would also change our wording when he sent you the interim reports, and it was really, it was very, very frustrating to watch this. Words would be changed, and he would give his opinion to the council when he submitted this, and a chairperson, an ethical chairperson to me is not supposed to submit their own opinion in something submitted to a council when you're on a committee like this. I also want you to realize this town is lucky that they have no women's leagues that play, because if I formed another women's league like I did back in the early 80s and late 70s, I wouldn't accept the fact that we wouldn't have a field because the men come first, the kids come second, and the women come last. So somebody was talking in town about having a women's softball league, and I want to know if that happens, where are they going to play? It's just something that you're lucky that a women's team hasn't played in this town for years. It's just something to consider. And also, I wanted to bring up to you, Mr. Calamari, I wanted to ask you, what qualifies your committee as impartial? Are you making an inference that the people on the committee under Mayor Zopkowitz that were appointed are not impartial?
Mrs. Plantamara, I just want to, the mayor and I did not know that you were going to ask direct questions, so
okay, if you can't answer them.
There shouldn't be direct
shouldn't
questions.
direct
Just
questions.
make a
Okay,
statement.
then I'll just make a statement, but
Because we were.
I understand. I'm sorry, I wasn't quite sure. But impartial, I question the
I don't mind either way.
impartiality because I don't understand why we were impartial when we were trying to get some kind of new direction on Memorial Field, and we felt resistance all the way on the way. And I just don't understand what qualifies Mr. Cumming and the DMF personnel. All of a sudden, they're qualified to be experts on this field. I'm not quite understanding that. So I really would like to understand why we were, I guess we're considered that we aren't impartial as our committee. So you had to form an impartial subcommittee, but your impartial subcommittee is supposed to report to the committee. As Mary Ann said, that's what's supposed to be done. And also, I'd like to say that it was submitted that Dave Terwilliger could maybe be considered being the next rec director. And in light of all the information I just gave you about certain things that I feel that maybe are questionable, that I just reported at our meetings for people that represent themselves in our town as people on the rec board themselves and coaches in this town. I'd like to see a new rec director and maybe some new coaches in this town. We need some new blood maybe. And people that are impartial and do not represent just one side and seem to always think that they should be able to get what they want.
Thank you.
So that's what I'd like to say about that, and Cindy has something to say too.
Cynthia Cannon, 804 Manhattan Avenue. Thank you for allowing us to speak to you tonight. I went onto this committee on July the 11th, and then I was sick for the next meeting. However, the time, and I sat back to listen because I was new to this committee. I wanted to find out where they had gone to and what was going on. And my first question was, have you got a grass expert? Do you have somebody that really knows, about grass? I know nothing about grass. I now know a lot about grass. But on the other hand, I'm also a physical therapist. If I break a bone, do I go to my dentist to have it fixed? I go to an expert. And that's what my question was to our committee and to the chairperson. Because apparently in looking back at other emails and other communication that took place between people on the board, there was questions in the second week that they held, third meeting that they had about a grass expert. Nothing ever was done about it. So what I had asked after that next meeting was, what about soil testing? Because what I see over and over again, you have to know what's in the earth in order to be able to know how to take care of the grass. That hadn't been done in 6 years. So I called up Rutgers Cooperative Service to find out in Bergen County what to do about this and where we could go, and brought that information back to the next meeting. At that meeting, Mr. Dugan was kind enough to ask, he said he would look into asking the groundskeeper, Oscar, who works over at, I think it's Rivervale, the county course in Rivervale. Oscar's the head groundskeeper over there. And he said that's what he was going to do. And apparently Mr. Steele was also supposed to be looking into something, and that was 2 months after the fact. In September, Mr. Dugan came back with the groundskeeper will not come and talk to the committee, and had recommended an agronomist, is that how you say it, agronomist? Which is the science of soil management and crop production. So I would think that would be a grass expert. And I asked, will we be pursuing this? There was no answer given about that. September the 20th, I provided literature from soil testing through the cooperative service, all the different testings that they have, that we could do it ourselves. Apparently that's how they had done it, as Mr. Toomey told me, that's how they did it originally 6 years prior. When I asked the cooperative services if they could look into what the analysis was from before, she said 5 years is our max. We don't go back too much further because they have so much, I guess they don't do enough data entry or whatever they did, but she said 5 years was it. She couldn't compare the studies. So she, again, we heard Mr. Steele was going to offer to provide information. In October, I provided information that I got from Rutgers concerning grass seed, compaction of the earth, nutrients, info from the internet, anything from the internet site. Again, asking him whether we're going to get a grass expert. Again, nothing happened. In October 17th, I provided them information about this grass expert program that they have at Rutgers, because they offer it on a bachelor level, you can have an associate's level, or they actually have a 6-month course where you go to learn for 6 months and then they have 6 months off. And offered all that information. That's all with Mr. Dugan at this point. We had also thought that maybe that would be a good idea for our own DMF if we could offer that as, say, to someone who might be interested, that this might be something that they could do to manage and to take care of our fields. if they could go to the Rutgers program. So Mr. Dugan thought that was a great idea. We just kind of tossed it around back and forth, and that was just tabled. In November the 15th, I was told, I talked to, before this, I also spoke to turf farmers, all the contacts from the cooperative extension down at Rutgers University, the PhD program. I had 4 contacts down there. Also spoke to, had an email back and forth with Let It Grow. Then I was given a price all of a sudden for the Tuckahoe Turf Farm, which provided to Rutgers University. They had 2 fields that were donated to Rutgers. And they in March of last year, they put sod down and they took the whole field over. And they said from March till August the 3rd, you cannot step on that sod. And that's what they use for their practice field for their Rutgers program. They don't use the artificial turf for practice. I asked Mr. Toomey because I don't know anything about sod, and he said to me, well, we don't want short rolls. And Tuckahoe Turf said to me, well, 55 cents a square foot for the short roll. And Mr. Toomey said, well, there'll be seams all over. We shouldn't be doing that. We need the long rolls. And the fellow from the turf farm literally said to me, you must have a lot of money because towns can't afford to pay for the long rolls. And I never asked for prices because I wasn't in that position. I'm just doing research. And then they asked me we got a certified grass specialist on November 11th, November 30th. Again, they were talking about engineering reports and resodding the field, at which time that Mayor Sopkowitz at the time said that the DMF hours were overstated for the report in 2015. It was very difficult for me. I went into this, I am absolutely for health, and I don't like artificial turf. However, I went into it with an open mind, thinking that perhaps we could talk back and forth and maybe find other solutions to be able to help to fix the field. It didn't appear to, we were butting heads constantly. But it seemed, and I'm sorry about this, it seemed that when the mayor, our new mayor, decided the last meeting to say that he was going to have another impartial subcommittee. And I'm happy because Mr. Cumming is on it and he is a horticulturist, is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's wonderful because you get somebody that knows grass and taking care of grass. Mr. Lawler, he's working with the DMF. I have no problem myself with him. I think it's better to involve all those who are going to do the field. But I also felt that Mr. Toomey did not seem to be open-minded enough about different places to put fields, to take people off of a field. And for that reason, it was very, very difficult to work with the football coach and with Mr. Toomey. However, moving forward, I hope that this is going to help to fix the field somewhat, but I still feel, and this is just my personal opinion, putting sod on it at this point in time and not preparing the soil and doing all the topsoil and fixing, everyone's complaining about drainage on Memorial Field. However, we were told by Mr. Steele there is not a problem with drainage on the field. And I almost fell off my chair when I heard that because everybody tells me all the time that there's a problem with drainage. And when I talked to Mr. Azzolina, he said to me, he goes, we remember the step system that comes down the hill. I remember when they had put that in. And he said, the drains are probably all clogged up. Nothing over there is probably working. And of course, that's going to spill out to the field and across the field and take any dirt and anything that's on the field with it, and off it goes. If you're going to put sod on the field and then it fails in a year or two, is it because the field was not properly set up and managed correctly before you started that whole part of the project? That part, I don't think, now with Mr. Cumming on it, it's a different story, but I still hear you talking about sod, and because of that, I would like to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up for failure again, and that the period of time between putting the sod down and allowing them to play on the field is significant. And according to the literature, a minimum, it should be, I think it's deep root is at 6 weeks when the weather is good. If we have snow and it goes down to 20 and 15 degrees again, that becomes a problem. That was the number one problem behind putting sod down in December, was because at the very beginning of December, I was just looking through the weather thing again. We had that cold snap, then it went to 60 degrees, and then it just fell off the map. And I had already spoken to the turf farmer again, and because he said to me, if you want this turf to be laid in December, I have to have a contract and ready to go, because we stop cutting on the 23rd of December. The New York State farmer said, no, November, we finish at the end of November, we're finished, we're done. The other fellow said he would go longer, but he said, but if we hit a cold snap, I'm not cutting because it ruins the grass. And then he said, I can't guarantee anything. We'll be throwing something on top of solid rock, the soil's too hard. So that's my spiel for the night, but thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I do appreciate it.
There was one other issue that I wanted to bring up, a real short one. Am I allowed to say something again, or am I done? I don't know how this works.
It's up to Council President.
I think for tonight, if we can end it there, I think that's the place to stop, Tony, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Thank you
We
very much.
appreciate your
We
time.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Bruno, you had cash reserves and surplus on the council?
I just wanted to know, where we're at. I know we're going into budget discussion. I just wanted to see if there was progress.
There's some progress. We don't have anything concrete for tonight, but I have asked Ashley to please accelerate it so we can have it for what will presumably be our next budget meeting. I just took a guess and said, please have it for Saturday, if not sooner.
If we could have it before that.
Yeah, to review it, of course, yeah.
Finance Director, Mr. Bruno?
Just status.
Status of the Finance Director, Mr. Mayor?
Somewhat timely, the first person that I interviewed about a month ago decided that he did not want the position. I spoke to another person late last week who said she might be interested. Her and I are supposed to get together either Wednesday or Thursday of this week.
Employee performance process, Mr. Bruno, you had a question?
Yeah, I guess my question on this was, we talked about this for years. And then at the last budget meeting, when we ask if everyone's being evaluated and what's the performance process, we find a lot of people aren't being evaluated, as we were told a couple of years ago. So we did talk about putting in a performance process, and I know the mayor was going to talk to the attorney as to the legitimacy of it. I didn't think there was a problem to put a performance review evaluation process in place, so I'm just trying to find out what happened.
Can I just ask for clarification on who's not being evaluated that you think should be?
Well, I don't know. I asked at the budget meeting if you were, and you said you've never been.
Oh, no, yeah, okay, yes, absolutely.
I mean, that was one, so I don't know who else was.
And all the directors. Well, that was the former mayor. She
Yeah.
was handed evaluations twice during my tenure.
I know. I'm
And she
just
just
saying.
never returned them. So it's just that you can't get blood from a stone.
I understand.
So I'm
Just-
anticipating that this mayor's going to do them, but, I mean,
Okay.
okay, so I think there was other parts of the question. I just was curious who you were referring to.
Anything else, Mr. Bruno?
Well, yeah, I was asking
Oh,
the
Yes.
update.
Mr. Calamari, okay.
I think it was Mr. Moore.
To Mr. Calamari or Mr. Powell?
Whoever would like to answer. I think the mayor was going to talk to the attorney as to, we wanted to implement a performance evaluation process, and he wanted to check to see if there was an issue, which I didn't think there would be an issue in any business, to have a performance, an evaluation and a performance and a merit increase based upon performance.
Yes, as I'm learning new stuff every day, and I learned that government does not act like a private business in many areas. This is probably one of them. I have not brought the issue up yet with Mr. Poller. My fault again for reasons that I was tied up for last week. But I'll certainly, he and I will talk about it and have an answer shortly.
Can we just clarify it, because Bob brought up a few questions. The question or the issue that I would like to understand is, do we have the ability to provide a merit-based increase that would result in potentially some employees receiving less, some receiving more, some receiving an average, or if we speak of a 1.5% increase, is that provided to everyone without a consideration of performance? That's the one point that I would like to understand.
Let me say, I would too, and I don't know if you're prepared to answer that now, Ken, or if you want to do a little homework on it yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
And just a small derivative of that, there are certain tenured positions. Is there guidance on those positions in terms of, do they have to receive an average? Can they have a merit-based performance increase? Or, what options, if any, are there for those protected positions?
And if I might elaborate, because this did come up at the meeting the other day, Ken, there's another nuance. There's a statute that talks about the 4 protected positions, but is it only after they've attained tenure that they have the protections of that provision, or is it at all when they're appointed?
Because, ideally, in my view, every employee should perform at a high level, and for those that don't and are advised of that, and there's clear documentation, coaching, whatever that might be, that their annual increase might be impacted. So a true merit-based performance system.
Anything else, gentlemen?
So will we have an answer next week, next meeting, Ken?
You'll have an answer. I'm not sure it'll be next week, but you'll have an answer.
Well, I mean, the next council meeting.
I'm saying the next meeting, I'm not sure.
How about the one after that?
We should be able to do that.
The end of April?
I would think yes.
Gentlemen, very quickly, Mr. Cummings.
I'm sorry.
Dr. Cassio and I have been throwing something around, and I just wanted to get a quick straw poll, what your interest would be, and then to have Mr. Poller research. We wanted to create a director of senior and veteran affairs for the municipality, for the Township of Washington. With us expanding the senior program this year, adding more funding to it, both Dr. Cassio and I would, want your input maybe for the next meeting to think if you think it's a good idea for the council to have a director for that position of a senior and veteran affairs director, so they can handle and bring their concerns from the Golden's Club and the veterans to us. Just let us know for the next meeting if you don't mind.
I applaud your thoughts, and I look forward to hearing some more.
Mr. Pollack, can we look into how to create that?
Yes. That was this Director of
Senior and Veteran Affairs.
Well, you can always.
We could change, that's just Dr. Cassio and I took some penmanship.
We talked at the last meeting about how that's an area that's underrepresented.
Underrepresented to us, so.
In regards to recreational outings, and here's the thing: you could probably line item fund it, and then if it doesn't go through, it just goes into the surplus, I would think, right? Something like that.
Well, we just wanted a representative to maybe bring their views to us, so this way we have, just like the Director of Recreation brings, that rec is increasing services, so I think we need something like that. I think would be a benefit to the township. Thank you. Under ordinances and legislation, PSENG 2018 rate increases. Mary Ann, that's under your department.
Oh, no, that was,
That was that opposition resolution that you thought with the rates, if they would consider it.
I thought you had that on there.
No, I got that from you. I just figured any of you wanted to address it.
So what's the rate increase over their maximum?
Oh,
To their maximum?
frankly, I didn't know this was attributed to me. I wasn't
Oh.
prepared to speak to it, but I do
Okay.
know that
This is
there
here.
it came through the Pascack Valley Administrators Association, and I know the Borough of Emerson has adopted it. Yeah, so,
There's a sample resolution here in the packet. If the council wants to join on board, we can create, do the same thing.
I think the idea is that they see that PSE&G is going in for a rate increase because they feel that the tax rate reduction creates an opportunity for them to get a rate increase without anybody really complaining. And, generally.
So we won't
thinking
tax
that's
them as
not
much, so
fair.
we'll make up the spending in another way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so I guess this is something we could review for the next meeting, gentlemen? Is that okay?
Can
CBD,
we have a draft?
it's in your packet, Mr. Owens.
Can we have a draft
Oh, for
ordinance
us.
prepared for us?
that's, yeah.
And if we
Absolutely.
want to address it,
I think it's time sensitive to some respect because I think
Can we have a
they're gonna
draft
be
to Mr.
voting-
Poller so he can review it, please?
Is it an ordinance or a resolution?
It's a
It's a
resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's a
Yeah.
resolution. I'm reading ordinance on here, so. okay.
I'll just take Emerson's
Yeah,
and
just
modify it to us.
okay.
Ken, can you pass a resolution at a budget meeting? Or no, that's only restricted to budgetary items?
Well,
If this is time sensitive.
well, if do you put out a notice that says you can take business? I mean, you advertise those budget meetings under the Open Public Meetings Act, and in there you give enough notice, and you also say that other action can be taken?
It says the 2018 budget agenda.
Just the 2000
No.
budget agenda?
Budget agenda.
I guess we could,
I guess that's next.
Can we change the wording for the next meeting before it's
well, we're gonna
We can talk
advertise,
tomorrow.
we can talk later.
Okay.
There's a way to do it, yeah.
Yeah, I just think you have to have advance notice. That's going to be done.
The next thing is yours, Mr. Wachowski, CDBG funding?
That was me.
Yeah, it's good.
Back at me. This was one, yes, that I had received an email for Mary Amoroso from the CDBG, just expressing her feelings that from the Bergen County chosen freeholders that there could be funding that's going to be in jeopardy from the CDBG. And she feels that with the towns, this is a very important integral part of every town and getting projects done and fair share, of the pot of the money. So therefore, she talks about paving and stuff like that, and drainage and sewers, and I know there's some senior stuff that's in there. So I just wanted to put it out there to you people that if you wanted to adopt again this resolution, that I would draft it up with Township's name on here and put it on the budget. I mean, on the next meeting, I'm sorry.
By all means, I think you should.
Gentlemen, you're concurrent, so we should have that?
What does it do, basically, Sue?
It basically just is another voice of supporting the CDBG funding.
Just so, yeah, this is, I guess, part of the federal budget does not include funding for the program. They're basically going to defund the program.
Yes.
It's part of HUD. The federal government funds it through HUD, and then it trickles back. And for one of the states that gets very little return of their money from Washington DC, this is one of the ways we do get it.
Well, it was reduced, the funding last year by 50%, right? Wasn't that, was 50%? I think what they want to do is...
Zeros.
Yeah,
It's zeros.
they're gonna do away with it, for us
Is
anyway.
everybody okay with Sue preparing that for us?
Yes.
Please.
Could you please prepare that? Yep. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda is the Green Team. Mr. Calamari, we had asked who the members of the Green Team were, and we could get that status update.
Yeah, sure.
And then I also had a question regarding the ordinance that was in our packet.
Okay. First, the current members, as they were reported to me, Rick Sontag, Dan Scuderi, Lorianne Roberts, Art Cumming, and Tom Sears.
Do we have, in looking through, I guess they'd asked that we pass the no idling, am I correct in saying that? Which is attached to our packet, the last page?
Yes, they had asked my opinion on it.
I think we passed that already. I think the prior green team may have passed that already.
Okay.
And we just researched that we're not passing the same thing twice.
Okay. Could be, like Mrs. Grimaldi pointed out, maybe the code isn't updated to reflect it yet.
Okay, I think we have, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's been updated.
Sue, is that something you can check, please? Thank you.
And also, maybe if this is something, we'll make sure that it's on the website,
Okay.
especially that page about the summary of the idling requirements. See if there's anything more updated than the 2007.
Thank you.
Surely.
I see that there's a, this is the first I'm seeing it, an ordinance for green purchasing, which is covered in the QPA class. This is a lot of information to digest, so have to look at this. It could be quite onerous. I mean, it's always something that's in the back of my mind, but we could have some time to digest that before that gets on the agenda, please.
Can I ask a question regarding the green team? So what are they doing?
Specifically, right now, I couldn't tell you, but I'm happy to see if they want to attend our next meeting and give a report as to what they are doing.
I mean, spring has sprung, and you know, we've talked about beautification and fixing the town up and having somebody do something in the front. I think Art talked about dead trees in the front. So, I mean, do they have a plan? Did they come to you and say, here's what we're looking at, we need money, we're going to plant, we're going to have, tulips come up in the spring and something come up in the fall, and the town look nice, and Mr. Snide doesn't have to come in anymore, or what are we doing?
Well, just, I mean, I think there may be some misunderstanding at the nature of a green team. The green team is environmentally responsible, sustainable, that's where the green comes from, not necessarily gardening and green spaces. So, in fact, when Mr. Sears started with the project, I said to him, there's a very defined space for this. There's Sustainable New Jersey, there's programs at the state level, and I think he's realized that, and that I believe that in my conversations with him is where they're gravitating and focusing their efforts. They're trying to get energy audits performed. He's asked me for copies of the bills for the various buildings. So I think that's where they're gravitating for at first. In fact, Mr. Scuderi would come to me and spoke to me about recycling, and I said, that may or may not be part of it, and probably is part of it, but I said, that's covered by grants and so forth. So I think for now, they're kind of, from what I understand, they're talking about energy conservation, the idling, protection of the environment. I think they're doing the community cleanup, correct?
Yes.
At the, again, preserving, and not as much as beautification like you were just talking about. That needs to be done, but not necessarily by the green team, I
I
don't
thought in
believe.
one of the meetings, we talked about the green team and beautification, and I think that I had mentioned the gentleman across from Bakari, the greenhouse guy there.
Still no?
Yeah, to do some work, and there was a discussion as to that they were going to have volunteers on this team that would be able to plant, which I kind of disagree with, because I think we should have professional people. It's not expensive. So I thought at that time we talked about everything that what Mary Ann just said. Unless Art, maybe you can fill us in.
If I can just go ahead quick.
Yeah,
Art,
go
for a
ahead,
second.
sure.
In addition to what Mary Ann said, let me say that the team is interested in pursuing both roles of a green team and a beautification team. But when Mary Ann enlightened us all as to what the green team is supposed to be focused on, I asked them to please in effect, produce two budgets, one for green team activities and then a separate one for beautification activities, because as Marianne alluded to, you cannot really commingle the two, or you could lose your green team status and or funding potentially.
So should we have two separate teams?
I don't think we need two separate teams as long as they isolate what they're doing that would be considered green team as opposed to beautification. But again, I don't think, I don't think anyone would object. Green team is very close to beautification, in my opinion at least, even though it may not be that way in the state's eyes. So if people are interested in, beautification also, in addition to the green team or separate, we'll certainly take all the volunteers. Also, I heard that, like you said, it should be paid. I believe the DMF will be a part of it, but also we have gotten requests from like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts that, they would like to be a part of our beautification efforts in the town.
I mean, I don't have a problem with volunteers, but I think we really need some professional landscaping, if I would call it. I don't know what you would call it, Art, but you're on the team. But I mean, the front of the building is just...
I would agree.
Not even the front here, the front on Pascack Road, the signs. I mean, there's nothing presentable when you come in here, and we've been hearing it for 2 years. So, I mean, let's spend some money, which we'll put in the budget, and get the right people to do it, and get professionals to clean this town up. If the green team is doing whatever it is they're doing, which is totally opposite of this, then let's get people that want to do beautification. This way they can do the green stuff and somebody does beautification. I don't know.
I think, we have talked about the front of the building down on Pascack Road,
Yeah.
and we've talked about changing it, and we're about to go out and find and create a design that would be acceptable, hopefully without a great deal of committee frou-frou. We can get something together that'll be acceptable and more beautiful for the building and in keeping with our town. And I'm going to address that next. I've been busy because I got sunburned out on the field today. But there are more days in this week when hopefully there won't be too much snow, and I'm going to address that next because I've also had design. Today, the green team, Mr. Scuderi and Mr. Sears and I went out with Brian McDonald of the New Jersey Forestry Service for about 2 hours, and we went to Gardner, Sherry, Memorial, Lincoln, which was new to me and is partly in my backside yard, way on the north end, on the Hillsdale border.
It's on the side of me.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful woods that runs up and down the hill. Talking about tree preservation, tree maintenance, safer trees, safer forests. We got grant papers to fill out. Some of them are matching grants, but we can get $3,000, and we can donate labor and build up hours so that there's an in-kind donation, not a financial donation. So that we're working with the forestry people of the state of New Jersey to get as much in for the town to clean up our neglected trees around the fields, around the parks, things that need trimming for safety. So we spent 2 real quality hours all together today looking at all the hardwoods and pines and so on around several of the fields, and I think it was time really well spent. We had a thick information packet that I just delivered to the mayor tonight before the meeting. He'd never had a chance to even open it or look at it, and we have lots of good information to move forward with. I feel really good about this.
Art, just in that high-level review that you did, were any danger or potentially dangerous situations identified with our trees? Anything that was dead that needed to be removed or was highlighted?
Yes, sir. Together we saw several things.
Okay.
Yes.
So I know we have some money in the
That we're
budget.
concerned about.
So
So is DMF on top of this, Art? So we get
We just identified them
So by
before 1 o'clock
tomorrow-
today.
So tomorrow, we'll...
And tomorrow, I'll
fine.
get together with previous former Councilman Sears, and I'll probably see Mr. Lawler tomorrow for more soil sampling,
Okay.
and we can pass that
Did you look along the
on.
library too, behind the shopping center, on the
Down by,
south side of the library? You know, where
No.
the creek is, I mean, it's a mess back then.
We didn't go down there, but
Can
we
you
looked
take a
at
look at
several
that?
similar areas, and there was a lot of discussion about how we could get some help with state funds to put rows of sound barrier trees for instance, up by Gardner and such other things, and a lot of cleanup, a lot of cleanup.
Great. The last thing is, Mr. Poller, I know we've been getting, on the, we had, everybody received the tree ordinance in their packet. I know a lot of residents are concerned with all the tree damage that occurred over the past storm, the past storm last week. And I guess a lot of residents are under the impression that they are our trees that are in the public right of way. And we've been, I know the advice has been that they're the homeowners' trees, even though they're in the public right of way. So if you could just
Not the easiest.
address the issue
Yeah,
again.
Not the easiest issue. Yes. Not right now.
Yeah, not right now, I know, but if we could just get her something,
Yep.
so we could maybe put out some kind of, so we have some kind of legal advice, on that, and we can advise the residents correctly. Please, thank you.
Council President DeSena, I
Yeah.
just got an update that the area behind the shopping center and by the library will be on the April 28th cleanup agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cumming.
Glad to clarify that.
Okay. Next thing is the 2018 budget discussion. If we could take a 5-minute recess so Ricky can reset the microphones, I'd appreciate it.
I was reviewing, as part of the budget exercise each year, when we're getting close to the end, I review what we've actually spent and been charged to the various line items to see what's been budgeted, because sometimes there's a disconnect. Things are they're budgeted. For instance, I just found something in the building department budget that wasn't budgeted at all, but we're spending, so we've got to fix that. So while you're working on the capital, I'm going to sit here continuing with this exercise. I also spoke to Mr. Lawler and have some numbers there. I also spoke to the chief and have some numbers there. So I have some things I can fill in, but if you want to go ahead with the capital, then I can be...
That's fine, but when you say something we spent weren't budgeted in fiscal year 18, this year?
What we did was, for instance, here's one. Your temporary budget for other expenses for the building department was $5,128. When you got through making reductions, the actual budget in the permanent budget is only $3,000. There has been spending, however, that warrants an increase somewhere between what you had decided without full information and the amount you budgeted in the temporary budget. For instance, they got a new copier last year, and it completely, they didn't submit a budget at all. So that fell through the cracks, so there's an amount for $1,200. But I don't want to detract, but it's that type of stuff. And I'm just making sure, there's very few of those, but it's worth the exercise to make sure that there's going to be enough if the actual spending has been higher.
Okay, so we can't really finish Mike DeSena until we have all the numbers down, and then we have to calculate the tax impact. I mean, we can do capital and see where we go, what we don't do. We can't finish, my opinion, I'm not speaking for everybody, until we know all the monies.
Ashley's report,
and how we can use it. So, I guess that's...
No, I didn't think we would get done tonight either, Mr.
The only
Brewer,
other thing I would like to make a comment is we can, to Steve Cassio's point, we can put in...
Can you pull the mic toward you?
A 50,000, would he email you?
Yes, text.
Hello? We can put in a $50,000 reserve somewhere in the budget as a contingency, which Lou May said is probably the max amount. And if, to Mary Ann's point right now, that we've overspent in one area because we didn't budget properly, we can throw 50,000 somewhere and use it throughout the year, or not use it, just in
On
case.
almost anything?
Yeah, that's what he said. So
Okay.
county-wise,
Good to know.
I'm not really sure how the accounting works on it, but that's what he said.
Okay, so I guess we start with the capital, Mr. Bruno, are you okay with that? Mr. Calamari? Yes. Mr. Allman, Mr. Cumming, Cascio?
Sure.
So I guess the first line item, road improvements, 2018 road program. We had anticipated spending $700,000 in the next, for 2018, 19, and 20. Does anybody have any issues with that? I guess we spent 700 last year,
That's
correct?
pretty much what we've been spending the last few years. And it seems to get us enough streets, and then there's always a grant somewhere.
Can we just make sure that the engineer includes the cross streets from now on?
You're talking like Lincoln.
Like Lincoln, like,
Cross
yeah,
Street,
like.
Willow.
Correct, all those, we need to, we can't be paving streets and leaving, 150 feet of street out in between the two connector roads.
Right, sure.
And then think we're gonna let them, go back years to, it looks bad, and
Yeah.
it's just bad practice.
So do we know what this is? Last year, we clustered an area, because, I think Mike brought it up, Olin, that we were going here, and we said just cluster. And when we did the cluster scenarios, I think there might have been one street that was outside of it, but we tried to move it in. So do we know what this covers?
We have not received that list yet, I guess we're waiting on that list. We have not received the list yet.
Pretty much at this point, all those streets, remember they were they were classified differently. They're all pretty much the same class now, so it doesn't really matter where you put that cluster. Before we were doing, I forgot how it was, the rating was 14 is terrible, or,
Yep.
So now they're all like 10.
Can
so
we,
they're all
can
the
we,
same.
can we, who has that list? Mr. Lawler have that list, or who has that list?
We got the engineer.
Marion had it, I think,
Yeah.
or we had
But I
it.
think it's up to us now to just decide which cluster or
Yeah.
clusters we want to attack. I'm gonna say the ball's in our court. So I can,
Well, she can give us a map of
Yeah.
what we did and what's left.
Mr. Statiel, at one point, and I'm sure it's part of the records that he may have turned over, had a list or a map that had each of the streets identified, color-coded by the year of the program. And then there was a second list of their ratings. I don't know, a 15-point scale, I don't know what that scale
Okay.
is, but, and we had gone through what were deemed to be the worst of the worst, and we were trending towards those that were in
some
the
of-
middle of the pack.
Well, some of the worst of the worst were newer streets in town, like, Wayne, not Wayne,
fortunate to hear.
what's the one that was just built years ago up on the top of Linwood? The cul-de-sac. Andrea, no, it's not it, no. Julia Court.
Oh, okay.
Well, Julia Court's already been repaved
Twice.
and I've lived on my street for 22 years.
Isn't that a
And
sewer issue, though?
I don't care what it was, Bob. We could have just done a repair. Beach Street hasn't been repaved in 22 years, and here a street gets 2 new streets in less than 10, and it's just we just need to be a little cognizant
Mindful
of
of
that. Yeah,
this.
mindful of it. So
Marion, do you have that, remember the list we had of all the streets, the cluster list, and we had the name cluster 1, 2, 3, and then we decided which one to do and how much the streets, we estimate how much each street cost, we have total?
Yes, I have that. And actually today, and because you don't have your email, I sent to you a list of all the streets that were paved in the last few years. It's a consolidated list. What happened was when I saw what Sue had provided you the other day, she was unaware of additions and deletions. Those were the planned roads, and as you know, some were added. So what I did for both of our offices, I had one list prepared, and it's sorted 2 ways, so you can look at it,
Okay.
alpha. But I do have the clusters. Would you want to see that for?
we just want to see what the 2018 program is
We're
going to be.
putting 700 in here.
Well, I've asked Mr. Azzalina for that. I asked him back in middle of February, and I haven't heard from him, so.
Can we get it for the next meeting, please?
So, gentlemen, are we okay with the amount, and then we'll decide on the streets as soon as we get the
I think
list?
it's a constant.
It's
We
a
have to
constant number,
release
yes.
that, And then hopefully it's offset by grants. We see have a grant estimate for.
Woodfield Road is the next grant, yep.
So,
And
Yeah, but
Robin Wood.
I think.
It's not on there yet.
I think you need the list here, because we might say 7 and realize it's 850.
Absolutely, Mr.
Well-
I mean,
And actually, based on your comments, I think that the milling may change. Mr. Azzalina's estimates as to what can be done for the amount of money is going to change,
I
probably.
would assume so. So we should, get a number and
well, you
streets.
can keep the number the same, you just do a little fewer streets. At least it's but at least it's quality. We're getting stuff that's cracking. I'd rather do, instead of
One
doing
less
5
street,
streets,
yeah,
we got 4 streets that are gonna last a long time, are gonna look new in the next 2 years. And I understand you might wanna add a little bit to it, but Well, I guess we gotta, let's really see what needs to be done.
Well, let's wait for that. Okay, the Woodfield Road matching grant, funded by non-matching DOT grants, 165,627. That's a grant, right? We don't have to do anything with that, Mary Ann, right?
You don't, but on my understanding from Mr. Statiel, what last year was that was not sufficient to do all you needed to do, that there would be more you would need to add. So again, that'd be up to Mr. Azzalina, whether you want to take that out of the 700,000, or whether you want to supplement will be your decision.
Can you give us the cost of what he thinks it's going to take to complete that?
Yes. I
And
mean,
whether we can do a Phase 1 and a Phase 2 for Woodfield Road and submit a Phase 2 for the DOT non-matching grant again?
okay. I mean, the thing is with the, I was trying to send emails while I'm sitting here. Unfortunately, with the transition, not all of my emails are available to me right now. They exist somewhere, but I can't search them, so I'm trying to search prior conversations with Mr. Azzalina, and I'm not having luck.
Okay.
But then we have to, I thought we had to include this in the total, even though we get it back. Didn't we say we had to pay for it?
You have to pay for it, and then it
And then
comes
they
back.
come-
Yes,
back.
there was an issue last year with how it was,
Yeah, so I think we need further clarification on the
Yeah,
whole road
okay.
program
Yep.
and where and what clusters.
Was that supposed to be for the whole length of Woodfield Road?
No, she said she thought it was partial, Mary Ann just said.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I don't think that would cover the whole line.
That's why I'd asked if we could do a phase,
It's a big
well, that's why I'd asked if we
road,
could do a Phase 1, Phase 2, so we break it up and get more DOT funding.
It seems like the worst part of that road is between the library and the second culvert.
Correct.
You know, that's just
Very bad.
terrible.
Yeah, right at the Ridgewood Road, actually. That whole strip, right out the Ridgewood Road.
It's really not that bad past
The second culvert, yeah.
It's
very
fair,
bad, right.
but
It's a lot better than
it's
the-
really beat up.
Have you walked it lately?
Yeah.
I thought I saw you fall into that.
I did, I got out. That's why I never thought, because they pulled me out of the potholes. I had to, I'd still be down
I guess
right now.
the next three, we need to get Mr. Azzalino's input also on the intersection improvements, the land acquisition. Well, the land acquisition, we got to work with the appraiser once we have that defined, so.
I mean, you probably know better than me, Mike, but I assume now we have to, assuming he got everything to the county, we have to wait on the county to come back to us and say, this is the land you need to acquire.
Well, we can estimate it and give it to our assessor and maybe do some preliminary acquisition, like acquisitions. Because some have
Some
already,
money,
because
obviously.
Five Star or whatever it's called now, that's
Yeah,
already been
already
taken.
done, right.
So it was like a little bit by the Seasons property. There was none on Seasons.
Right.
And there was a little triangular piece at Helen Bone, but I had asked if Mr. Azzalino could look at, I was gonna ask if
Yeah,
he could move the alignment a little to avoid taking any
I remember
land from.
we spoke about that in the first meeting with the county also.
Calculation, I mean, we calculated it's like less than 200 square feet of
It wasn't much.
It wasn't much,
Yeah.
so.
I guess for DMF, if we could just have Bill Lawler revisit, maybe changing out that dump truck so it could be a chipper truck and a chipper,
Okay.
right, gentlemen? I'd spoken about this, but we really haven't had any discussion
Which
on it.
line out are you talking about?
Get a vehicle that's the same size as the Class 7 dump truck, but instead of being an open dump truck, be a closed dump truck, and purchase a chipper with the savings.
Okay.
Because we're really spending a lot of money filling up garbage trucks with trees.
It's volume.
It's volume, and we're destroying our garbage trucks also. So on top of volume,
Yeah.
garbage trucks aren't made to be
Yeah,
crushing branches.
that type of
So if everybody's okay, if we could have Mr. Lawler look at that. Mr. Allman, you okay with that?
Yeah, does it, by having it enclosed, does it reduce its use for other purposes? Or is that enclosure, is that cap removable?
No, I don't think it's removable. But I think
But it's something that they could swap on and off the body.
they could get, I don't know if they make one that comes on and off,
Yeah.
but.
I mean, I'm just,
Well, we'll certainly have them look into it, see what our
Something
options
like-
are.
It's like a canopy.
We could,
That goes-
they may
do that
make,
as well. They
I don't
take
know,
that
yeah, I
off.
don't know. It's just something to review, because I think we're wasting a lot of time, money, and effort with going out with the garbage trucks.
And equipment. like
And
you
equipment,
said.
we're destroying our garbage trucks in doing so. And I understand, there's chipper, every town has a chipper. It's I know we had an awful incident, but that's not why we shouldn't proceed getting one.
I mean, my only concern is if we bring in a dump truck and we can't put it towards snow,
Well, that's why it said big enough truck that can handle a plow. That's why it said, so.
but, I mean, I'm assuming we would want the salter on it too.
They do make roll-off pieces, so maybe they can get a salter body and a chipper body for it, Mike, but I'm not sure what is available, so we can maybe just have Mr. Lawler do some research on that. Mary Ann, maybe you can help him with
I
that?
think that was entertained a couple of years ago.
Is having the
Having roll-off and
Yeah.
then you interchange the body
Correct.
parts for the season in need
Yeah.
at the time.
They do make it,
But I think one of the issues at the time was where do you store the extra,
the one you're not
the
using,
roll-off, when
right.
you're not using it? Because obviously we don't have the space here, and that was the issue why I think we didn't go with it initially.
Okay.
That was one of the
It's just something to look at,
Sure.
Oh, just going back to the, I'm sorry, just going back to the road improvement. So I know that the DMF building itself needs quite a bit of work. But the yard itself, the pavement is in terrible shape. It's rutted, it's chipped, there's small potholes. I mean, when we evaluate the road program, can we evaluate paving just the yard? Because, I mean, it holds water, it holds,
You're absolutely right.
if we could pave it,
Everybody.
I think, if you had to walk across that every day, I don't think you'd be happy with it. I mean, if we can get it to drain properly, not a huge investment, but just get it repaved.
To clean it
I
up.
think it would make everyone's life a little easier. So if we can contemplate that, that'd be great.
I think another thing, Mike, before that, going back to the chipper, I think, a lot of towns around us have instituted chipping days where you're allowed to put large branches and stuff out at the curb. So it reduces the amount of waste coming in on a Saturday or a Tuesday to our DMF yard. And we could ship it and dispose of it as yard waste then, instead of going into the garbage trucks also. So if this does come to fruition, I think that's something we should look into, is, maybe early spring, middle of summer, and early fall, having 3 pickups for our residents.
We have the equipment.
We have the equipment, and then,
Use, yeah.
and then this way, they're not lugging it to the DMF and filling up the garbage trucks, and then we don't have to commingle as much, and maybe we could have a true grass and a true waste at the DMF on a Saturday. Just something, just food for thought.
So this would be something we buy this year, next year, or buy this year?
I would say buy this year and use this year, Mr. Bruno.
Then we might have to look at the budget for, seasonal.
Well, we were saying, replace the Class 7 dump truck with
For
some.
seasonal workers, for labor.
Well, he already hired a seasonal worker already, Mr. Calamari, right? He brought
2.
back.
Two of them,
He
yeah.
brought 2 already back, so.
That would be enough to run around, get chip.
It's a lot quicker than running around with the garbage truck.
No. My point is that we have enough people on the streets to do.
We'd have to
if we want to
I understand what you're
implement a
saying.
chipping day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, yes, Mr.
So that's the question. If we're gonna do that and get it this year, then you've got to put some labor in there, I would assume. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bill would
I
have to
would
tell
think
us.
it's a little optimistic to try and get it this year, but maybe they're off-the-shelf things, these
I don't
chippers
see-
and the
yeah, I
trucks
don't see
that go
why
along
not,
with
you know.
them.
We can ask Bill.
Mhm.
We'll see.
I guess we need to do some research first,
Save a lot of money on the truck, we keep them white, don't paint them yellow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's unbelievable what they charge you to paint that custom color.
The yellow is custom?
Yeah, doesn't come off there. You want that on your car, don't you? Yeah.
I've often thought about it.
Moving down the list to, I guess we had confirmed that the Scott bottles are okay, Mr. Mayor, for the fire department. I saw an email back, right?
Yes.
From Chief Incetta.
Correct.
The next thing was basketball.
In what sense?
The 30 for this year was
Sufficient.
Okay.
was sufficient, yes. The 40,
What's the, how long does the Scott bottles last that we capitalize it versus spending
I
money?
think you have to be
15 years?
Yeah,
10
that-
years?
that's- I wanna
Mr. Cumming, I think you had the answer. 10 or?
10.
I believe it was 10 years.
10 years.
That's fine.
But he said if he does 30 this year and 5, 5, and 5 or something, he had
Yeah.
he had sent us an email, Mr. Bruno.
Yep, that's fine.
There is a
Excuse me?
lifespan,
Yes.
There's a
unfortunately.
note, this was the one meeting I wasn't here, And Cornelia had a note in here, increase to 40.
Yeah, it's
Does that go back to
39,600.
30?
Increase the budget to
Yeah,
40.
very small.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
thought you meant
But to
40.
40.
Round it
Okay.
up to 40K
I'm sorry.
even. That's okay.
That was my note.
Gotcha.
We had the basketball courts at Memorial Field. Reimbursable, $21,093 is reimbursable by open space. Down at the bottom, gentlemen. We have these grants, Marianne?
Yes. And the Memorial Field one has to happen because it's time sensitive. They were gonna do the two, we held off because we figured we'd do the two at the same time to get economies of scale.
You're gonna do Gardner and Memorial at the same time?
Yeah, bid them out at the same time because you have the asphalt prices, you have the striping, you have the backboards.
Why such a huge difference in price between the two of them if they're the same size?
I don't believe they're the same size.
Oh, okay.
Why aren't they the same size?
Is there more than one at Memorial?
No, there's only one at Memorial.
I don't know.
No, Memorial is much bigger than Gardner, if I recall correctly.
The basketball courts?
Yeah.
What, I was saying, why aren't they the
Gardner's-
same size?
Oh, because Gardner's is a small place, isn't it? It's an
Same
existing facility.
Oh, that's
I think,
It's
that's why I was
fairly
asking.
small.
I think they are the same
Even
size.
if
Even
it
if
is
it's-
smaller, that they should be the same size.
Yeah.
The courts have to be a certain size, no?
Well, they may have
No.
been just made to
I mean,
fit.
you don't know,
whatever.
I don't know what they're basing.
NCAA.
I'm gonna ride by tomorrow, I'm gonna do some measurements. and see
40
what's
by
going
30
on.
or whatever badminton is.
Yeah.
Oh, just basketball.
Yeah, this is outdoor stuff.
I think, and I don't know, well, I'd have to look at the grant agreements, but I don't know if the memorial was, like, there was other stuff that had to be done. That's complete, that's got divots in it. I mean, I don't know if the reconditioning was to the same level at both places, but I can look at it.
Well, they both have to be dug up and resurfaced and put new poles and nets. I mean, it doesn't matter what they look like. You can't tar on top of
No.
either field. They're horrible. So they dig them all up like a driveway and put them
Are
all
we
down.
resurfacing with the same material? Are we using specialized surface on that?
I don't know, I'd have to look at I wasn't involved with the
I
grant.
think it's asphalt.
Okay.
I do know that he did them in my hometown and it wasn't asphalt, it was something else, something better.
Go to Paramus, did it beautiful.
Yeah, but that's just an acrylic coating system that's on top of the asphalt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's very durable.
If I had to guess, these numbers do not include
Yeah,
an
that's what I'm
acrylic.
thinking. I was hoping.
These numbers do not include the acrylic coating system.
No, I think that's with the 60, why the 60 is the
The 60
60,
may improve.
and the other one is just,
White lines on black asphalt.
yeah.
So the 60 may include the acrylic coating system.
Okay, that would be good. Maybe we can do, maybe the other half.
I can easily run upstairs and get the documents if you want.
Get them for next time, Mary. No
Yeah,
questions.
we're not going to finalize this. What about the ones above that? Did you guys talk about that already?
The ones above it are for closed with the police department,
Okay,
as per the chief's request.
okay.
So the only other one on here is the field lighting at Memorial Field for $550,000.
That was deleted by the mayor.
Yes.
You don't have
Yeah, Paul did his research with Musco, the existing poles will not
Work. I
accommodate
had said
the new
that, yeah.
lights, yeah. It was worth the research, but
Okay.
it didn't
And,
work.
and you should have, I guess, I thought I had given this to you. There's one signage for 10,000,
What kind of signage?
the welcome to town signs, I believe, Peter?
Under the
Yes.
basketball courts.
What's that?
Signage and then holiday decorations?
Yeah.
Yes, I guess
Yeah.
at some point I handed this out, and maybe it got blended with your other packets, because this happened the other day when you guys were wondering,
I think it's the same thing, 220.
Yeah.
What is
It's the same thing.
You're going to need to update the whole sheet anyway.
yeah.
Signage and holiday celebration?
No, the
Sign-
decorations are off because they're not they can't capitalize them, so it's just signage for 10,000.
So what kind of signage are we talking about, Mr. Mayor?
The welcome to town signs, more beautification.
So we're going to replace the two signs, or?
That's the consensus at this point, because they're wood right now, replace them with a durable plastic guard. I think we did a little
all right.
research into this and.
Yeah, there's
The
plastic
PVC?
laminated that goes on a router table. The router table in the machine is owned by the county, and that man will apparently make the sign for us. We've had one done already. It was for the Fair Lawn Arboretum, so.
Is there a charge for the county to do this for us?
No charge for the county to route the sign material.
Oh.
There's a charge for the sign material. It's the laminated stuff like these signs are
They
made
last,
out
they
of.
last forever, it's worth it.
They last
Absolutely,
My
yeah.
shingle, I had a wood shingle out, lasted maybe 10 years, and it looked horrible. I did it in plastic 15 years ago, it was like
Looks like
brand
new
new.
still today.
There are
probably.
also, if I may, there are also shields. I've seen what was it, the email that Tom Sears shared with me, that he got there where there are shields larger than a Knights of Columbus or a Rotary shield as you enter town. Very attractive, Washington Township. And then the main sign down in front of the building is what's planned along with new landscaping. That material is very expensive, but it will cost nothing to get it produced,
Oh, wow. Okay.
which sounds quite good.
So can we
And
get,
it'll be very
Long-term
permanent.
so can we get a quote on what the material cost would be for us, Mr. Chairman?
Sure,
Mr.
I
Mayor.
gave the vendor to Mr. Sears, and I'll see if we can get a quote on it directly.
I have a question. You know, we have our seal over here, and that was done back in 1976
Okay.
by a student
Oh, okay.
in town.
Oh.
I'm thinking
1776 or not?
1976, not as old as you, Mike, sorry. Maybe we can have another contest and maybe update our logo. I mean, if you look at it, to me, it's a little dated, you know? Just an idea, I think that would be a great thing for the kids
Right.
in art class or all the schools to participate in, and maybe we can get a committee to pick maybe a new logo for the
logo.
township. I'm just an idea, you know? It's been there for a long time,
Everything's on
and I
the
think that would be a
table.
great, thing for
We need a town color.
not yellow.
No, we're
Too
I mean,
expensive.
seriously,
It's gonna be
we
blue.
need
Yeah.
we need a town.
Yeah.
identity
Background of the
color.
sign.
I mean, we go back and forth with the blue, the dark blue.
Right.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
Just a thought. I think it would be a great thing to do.
Anything else, Mr. Bruno?
No, I had one question, though. At one point, the firehouse had an exhaust, you might have discussed it with them, I wasn't here. They had an exhaust or non-exhaust problem when they start the trucks up, the exhaust.
Correct.
Did we talk about that?
No, I did not discuss it because I thought it was going to be handled by the architecture study of why the system's not I believe it's not working. Is that where you're going with this,
I
Mr.
don't
Bruno?
even know if we have one. I'm not sure. I don't think we have one.
Because I have seen them connect those pipes to the exhaust at
That
one
is it,
point,
yeah.
But whether
I don't know if
they're
they still-
working or not,
yeah.
they didn't bring it up recently, and
How is, I guess, will we have that report back before the budget?
on the firehouse?
Yes.
Yeah, I think probably by mid to end April,
So, okay, so it'll be after we introduce the,
unfortunately, yeah.
okay.
So just in terms of the sign, which sounds like it 10 or 15, and the Scott bottles, I guess, you know, we're talking about using some of these funds that may be available to us. I think we should just think about, do we want to pull them out of capital surplus or whatever surplus we're going to call it?
I think we gotta see what we got first.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things. One is the mayor put in $300,000 for a hedge in capital, which I agree, whether it's 3, 2, 4, whatever, but we have all this money, and that's why we have to know. And the broken record, here we go, you know, like, it's
No,
$7 million,
understood.
so what do we put in surplus? What do we use for here? What do we use for the taxpayer? What comes out of the 5.2, which is capital surplus by itself? And then say, okay, here's the pot, here's where it all goes. We feel comfortable with leaving this? We don't, we do?
To do a 5-year,
And that's
3 to
it.
5-year plan to,
Yeah.
you know.
Gentlemen, one of the other things that somebody had asked me.
Don't you ask, Mike?
I'm sorry, Mr. Alderman, you done? One of the things, next to Memorial Field, I guess at one point in time, we had a grant application to buy the property next to Memorial Field. I'm reiterating what was told to me. There was a grant application to purchase the property that runs parallel to Memorial Field.
That was eons ago, and it
Eons.
expired a long time ago, and for some reason, if memory serves correctly, you couldn't use it for some reason. I forgot what it was, but there was some reason you couldn't use it for that.
I still want to sell it.
Well, somebody asked me, would it be advised, since we're talking about Memorial and there's parking issues there, and I'm the new guy here, so I was just trying to see if anybody had some information of why didn't we go through with that?
I
Because they
think
said
the
it was.
grant required the land to be a true green space.
Oh, okay.
And I think what it was anticipated to use the space for the acquisition was for parking, so.
That's what
it
somebody had asked
conflicted.
me. So it conflicts with the application? Okay.
Yes.
That's all I needed to know the answer to that, and that's what I'll report back to.
Yeah, that was the issue, I remember.
Yeah, because somebody had asked, why aren't we purchasing it to
You
put
could
the
have used it
parking?
for like a walking trail or
Passive-
something,
passive-
passive
passive
activity.
park- passive
But
activity.
then again, the bigger you make the park, you need more parking,
Right.
and you didn't have it.
Gotcha.
So
Okay, that's all the
that was
answer I
issue.
needed.
Just, I guess Peter sort of touched on it in a passing comment, and I think if we don't talk about it tonight, if we should think about it, is a true plan, a true strategic plan. The Board of Ed, when you go on their website, they did a study. They had public commentary, period. They went away, they created a true strategic plan, which for better or worse, they're executing against and have proved successful in executing. They put in a field, they are expanding the middle school. It's all tick marks on this strategic plan. And I think we have enough work in town to warrant, putting some serious thought, because a lot of this stuff is tactical. The budget is tactical. Aside from the firehouse and the intersection, most of this stuff is tactical. I think we really should give some thought as to where we're going to be in 5 years and have a plan that's we can work towards. And, everyone around this table, I think, brings something to that plan, but I do think having professional assistance would be beneficial. So, not saying tonight we need to make a decision, but I do think, we are at a crossroads, and I think it would be beneficial if we did something like that, if it's the field, the intersection, the firehouse, DMF, the courts, do we need to run a court system in Washington Township, or is it something, do we bring someone else in and get economies of scales that way? Do we
Merge with
someone else? I mean, it doesn't always have to be leaving Washington Township. We could host, but I do think it would benefit us all if we give some serious thought to what we're going to do with a 5-year plan, especially if we have this type of money available to us. And that would be my one comment. As we're looking
It's an
at
excellent comment, Mr. Ullman.
Good thought.
We need, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, we need the plan for sure, and then life sometimes gets in the way of the plan, but if we don't have a plan, we're just, operating blind.
We talked about the guy to come in. I put money in the council budget. I think that was the first thing we did. We left some money in there for that. Well, maybe it's not enough, but we put some money into an overall plan of everything. And they would interview the employees and say, where you at?
Well, I think that's one aspect of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's also, it may be even above and beyond that.
No, I agree. Yeah, because you got to look at it.
Start somewhere.
Yeah.
But, we tend to be reactionary. We tend to be tactical. And I think when we look at the school, again, you may not agree with what they're doing, but they are executing. They established a plan, and they're executing against it, and they articulate that plan very well. And I think, we owe it to the taxpayers to, get our house in order, or a little more tightly organized, and be able to articulate where we see the town going.
I think it's what I said tonight too, with the rec fees, which is a different topic, but it's piecemeal. You can't piecemeal what we're trying to do, because it's gonna cost you more in the long run. You're gonna spend here, and then someone down the road's gonna say, you know, gee, when you did the firehouse, you look at this, you really should have done X, Y, Z, and that's the issue. So there's money that's gonna go out, but if we piecemeal it, you're not, like to your point, you're not gonna have.
Yes.
You can't operate everything in a vacuum
Then you
until
put
it's self.
everything-
You gotta look at the whole pie.
Yes.
And throw money against it, you 10-year plan, you bonding, you don't bond, whatever it is, so. Yep. So I think we need a new cap sheet then, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I felt like there was something you talked about today, or in the last couple of meetings, that you had to add to capital. Can't think of it. No one else is thinking of it?
Say that again?
I felt like there was something that they talked about adding to capital that's not on here. If I think of it, I'll
I'll look back
mention
at my
it.
notes, but
I don't think there
offhand,
was.
I can't think of
No.
anything. But
Not right now.
usually I would have just
Maybe
jumped
it
to
was the
this sheet and-
chipper, it's
The
not,
chipper and the truck, we wanted to
Okay.
see if we can get some
yeah.
quotes.
But you talked about a tub grinder, but you weren't
We're
planning to
gonna
buy
rent
that,
the
just
tub,
rent
no,
that.
no, we're gonna,
Yeah.
rent the tub grinder.
Which I talked to Mr. Lawler about today. So long as we're not buying it, but he also said it requires training, it's gonna require more manpower, yeah, so.
You know, the other thing is, I'm not really in favor of spending a nickel on the red house, but
It's in bad shape.
I'd spend 10 cents knocking it down.
It's in very bad shape.
I know, but I'd spend 10
I
cents.
can't believe the roof is not leaking in that house.
It probably is, but we own it, we're the landlord.
But don't you think the person that's living there paying us rent would complain about it?
Has anyone
I've never
complained
heard,
about it?
I've never heard a complaint since I've been here.
I want to say for the rent they're paying, I believe, they're probably keeping their mouth quiet on these things.
Yeah,
Let
but
me-
I mean, what I'm saying is knock it down.
But
Absolutely.
I-
It's an eyesore, we should be embarrassed.
I believe, hopefully right after we get this architect plan and go forward with something, that would be the very first thing.
But do
if not sooner
do we
even.
put money in this year, or we gotta ignore it? That's what I'm saying. Because we have to do something for parking, and there's parking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, we can move the monument, there's something there, I mean, there's space, so it shouldn't
Right.
go.
Well, somebody asked, can we ask I was always under the impression that we bought the little shoebox house across the street, but I've been told that the condo development bought it. Right across from the firehouse, there used to be that little
It was
shoebox
in there.
house.
But they didn't talk
Mother
about it,
Hubbard's
right.
house.
It's in this version.
Can we just ask them to maybe give us an easement so we can put the monument right across the street from the firehouse? And therefore, we could expand all that into
On
parking?
the Washington, on the other side?
Across the
south
street,
side.
across the street, on the south side.
That's
where that
Commons
little-
property.
What's
yes.
that?
That's the Commons property?
I always thought we bought it, because there used to be a house there.
Yeah.
Very small little bungalow.
Yeah.
And maybe we could work out some kind of agreement to, lease a little, 50 by 100 piece
Get a
over there.
99-year lease
A
from it.
99-year
All
lease
right.
from them, put the
That's a good
fire
idea.
monument there. Then you can have all that for parking, Bob.
That's what I'm saying, not bulldoze the whole thing for all I care.
Well, you can get rid of everything then.
Move the monument. I don't know.
Well, if you move it across the street,
The garage is being used, right, the red house.
the garage is being used by
We
DMF.
can't bulldoze that right off.
We use the garage.
That was on the
That's what I
first
just
version.
said.
too.
I tried to say,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
That's it.
Yeah, we
Now, as far as may I address the roof, as a home inspector, Jersey license for a number of years, the roof could be 2 or 3 layers, as you probably understand,
You see if
which
you
is
want
the only
to
reason it's
put
not
walls
leaking
and
like a
stuff
sieve
on here,
in the
but
condition it's in, which
What?
is one of the most horrible things I've ever seen.
It's really bad.
But unless they have 20 buckets around the living room and have called,
Well,
I'm not aware.
Marion, we got quotes on the roof, right? And
Yeah,
you and
it's
I
like-
started to talk about
On
it,
that?
and it was
Yeah.
going to be our recommendation to not spend the money.
Yeah, the 5
and-
figures.
Yeah, because,
I would just knock the whole house
yeah,
down for 5 figures.
right, yeah, I'd rather see the money spent that way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
if you
So,
have to,
yeah, so I'll have Ken check
Collect the
into
rent
what
for a few
notice
more
we have
months
to
and knock
give.
it
Well, I think he said it was month to
I
month.
think it's short notice, I don't know if it's truly month to month, but I'll check with him and start that in the process.
give them decent notice.
I would
Yeah.
give them,
Yeah.
yeah,
May as
significant.
well be nice to them.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay.
Just before you move on, because Sue and I have the updated sheets, and I don't know that you've talked about everything. Can I just go over, I wasn't.
Sure.
In the road improvements, you talked about the 700,000, you talked about Woodfield. Did you have on your sheets ADA compliant curb cuts?
Yes, for 41,000.
Okay. Intersection, did you have at the end, this was added after the first version, 8 solar-powered LED pedestrian crossing signs?
No. we don't-
Quote for
I was wondering why that wasn't
$30,000.
talked about. Yeah.
Quote for $30,000. Somehow you guys got it handed to you and it didn't get into your books.
Well, you gotta revise the whole sheet anyway. so we
Yeah,
have
no, but I mean, if
one
you want to
sheet.
have a conversation about it, then it'll be less you have to talk about later.
So what is it, 8?
This is the mayor's.
It's 8 solar-powered LED pedestrian crossing signs to go up near the schools. Again, they'd be solar-powered LED where you could push a button at night and it would start the LED flashing. Everyone thinks that's a great, safety thing also to put on crosswalks near the schools.
Are these similar to the stop signs?
Yes. Mhm.
I mean,
And one person even told me now, instead of it blinking, that it gets more attention than what they're coming out with is something that goes around in a circle when you activate it, and so supposedly that gets the eye's attention even quicker than something blinking.
I mean, the blinking ones by me, I think are great. I don't know if we've had, enough time has passed to come up with any effectiveness measure from accidents or incidents, but I mean, they really stand out. So I think putting them by the school is, a win for everyone.
I had asked Captain Ackloff, he said there was a little bit of a change. Whether it should impact, I mean, you see the sign, that they still go through it for some reason.
That is the worst.
mental
If you're
thing.
texting, you're not going to see
Tremendous.
anything. Yeah.
All right, so I guess, gentlemen, does anybody have anything, if the 8, I guess, could you get us the locations, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, of course.
And then
for our
did
next
you
meeting?
talk about the senior van?
We had talked about the senior van, 62,500, but the mayor was going to look for more information.
Well,
with-
yeah, did we ever get anything from Oradell and what are they going out on their own truly?
Well, no, that's where we got the amount from.
I know, but is Oradell breaking away from us when they get their new van?
They do,
or-
they have it, and they are, and
Oh,
they said that they cannot entertain right now any request to share until they figure out how much use they're using their van for, because they're expanding their senior program. So I can follow up with the administrator, but she basically, it was pretty much, the door was almost virtually shut.
Okay.
Can you provide the details? Does this van match what we have now, or is it smaller? Is it
It's smaller, I think, and
Can we get the cut sheet on it, specs on it?
yes.
I thought you were gonna talk to the county too, Mary Ann, and see if we can get some stuff from them. Because when Mr. Lawler was there, he said they don't use it on Fridays, and it sits there, and so. it's-
Oh, you mean as far as accessing,
as
using
far as
that?
Yeah, I mean.
I can look into that. I
Didn't seem
didn't
like
look
they were
into it in
using
terms of the, what's that?
Didn't seem like they were using it the way that requires a purchase, I guess is my question.
Oh, you mean in our town? We
Yeah.
weren't using it as much. I know that there were requests to use it more frequently, to have it used by the library in conjunction with library programs, and at the time it was going to interfere and we didn't have it as many days. If that was, I think it would get more use if we have it exclusively, because then you could make the day you go to the mall or whatever they do on Fridays, Thursday, and
Yes,
have
that's what
Friday
we
be
talked
the
about.
day that goes to the library.
Yes, that's what we were talking about.
So I don't know that it's, I mean,
But how many people typically get on, what's the largest amount of people that get on the bus on?
I don't know, that's all handled through the DMF.
Yeah, you
I'm
could
just worried if
also-
we make it so much smaller that,
Oh, it wasn't a lot smaller.
Okay.
I think it was 12, 14 or so. I don't remember what the existing
Then what do
one-
we have now?
Oh, yeah, I don't
Oh.
remember, but I seem to remember the new one was in the 12 to 14 passenger.
Can we just
range
see what
with
the difference is between the two?
Wheelchair lift and
Okay.
all that, room for a couple wheelchairs and the.
Oh, it is going to be,
it has to be
Oh,
handicap,
yeah,
yeah.
yes.
okay.
I think we were just waiting, Mary Ann, on more information on the senior van. We had discussed it with Mr. Lawler, and we were waiting for more information, so.
Okay.
So if we can get the cut sheet and what the existing van seats and what the proposed van seats, I just want to make sure that we're not,
Yeah.
buying something.
Making a mistake.
Making a mistake by
Future-
buying something
yeah, have
smaller.
something for future
And when
growth.
our senior population increases, we may need the for a
Can
few
we
thousand.
check with Mr., I can't remember his name, Joyce, to see if
Jim
they
Joyce.
want a van?
Oh, well, they definitely want one, and, you know, they always say they could use it more if the town had a
had full
driver
access,
for it,
right.
and, yeah.
So I guess, gentlemen, that's the other thing we have to decide is if we do buy our own van, we have to fund the driver then to use it more, because right now it's a DMF worker, right? So,
It's not a DMF worker, is it?
It's
I mean,
it's
he
within the
come-
DMF budget,
Yeah,
but he
but-
has a CDL, but
no, but
it's-
I'm just saying, if we buy our own van, we're hopefully gonna use it more often, so that person would be
Yeah.
used more, so his budget would have to be increased a little bit.
Yeah, and to that end, I think we even spoke about, I forget with who, that if we hired a new DMF worker, he could put in like 60% of his time on the van and 40% on DMF
DMF, okay.
activities.
I just don't wanna, we
Yeah,
end up with
buy
a
a
van
new
and it
van
sits,
and no one
and
to
it
use
sits
it,
here because we
right.
don't have enough manpower or people power to make it, make it
We also
viable.
have driver storage, maintenance, gas, et cetera.
You got that, oh, yeah. But we store it here sometimes, and sometimes
I'm
it's
just
over.
saying, these are all the factors to consider.
Yeah, sure.
Well, yeah, it fits in a parking space. That's where we had here most times.
It's here right
Yeah,
now, right?
more times than
More
it's in
than
the
times a
others-
night,
others.
yeah.
It's always
Well, it's
parked
been
here.
here actually every day for the last few months because they've gotten theirs, I think.
No?
Oh, yes, okay.
So since it's been here, we tried to use it more or we haven't? Yeah.
I don't believe we have, I haven't heard it.
I have to get more details. I don't
Yeah,
know, I have to make sure that they've received it. I did ask for more detail from Oradell as to the actual purchase. I
Now,
didn't get that.
is it our van that we could trade in or no?
It's ours, but I had, somebody'd have to look at the documents from when it was acquired with, I think, it was some kind of grant, and I don't know if there are any kind of
Well,
constraints.
I'm just curious, just to offset the cost of the new van,
Yeah, I don't know how much value it has. I've
Well,
seen,
just, like.
yeah, I went to that
A little
county
bit.
auction that we just did, and something like that would go for like $1,500. It was crazy how little things were getting.
When you're buying, it's expensive, when you're selling, it's not worth it.
I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
Anything else you see, Mr. Bruno? Marion, what was next on your hit list?
No, that was it. I think you covered it all. We covered it all.
Sue, did you have anything that you thought we
I don't
missed?
think so.
You think, Mr. Mayor, you'll have all the information we need for public affairs?
I would say
By Saturday?
95%, if not 100%. You know, I put out everything today to the people who need to get back to me. I would hope so, but of course, I don't want to guarantee that it'll all be in, but I would think the bulk of it should be in.
Gentlemen, next meeting Saturday at 9:30 is?
Wait, I have a few more lines if you want to, let me see if I can find
What's
them.
that?
Sorry.
But just, I'll email, just email me what you have.
Okay.
I mean, you won't probably need my vote anyway, but.
9:30
Okay,
is better. 9:30 is better.
Oh, fine. I'm real good with that, but I just didn't want to inconvenience everyone else.
What page you on?
It's my page. What is it? My page 10 into 11. It's a salary and wage for tax collector. There's no funding in that line.
10 into 11.
Without getting into anything specific, I've become made aware that there were past promises that if the certificate was attained, that there would be a stipend of $5,000.
I don't think we have the right page.
It's tax collectors.
What's the account number?
145, 110.
145-100.
Okay.
Oh, 100.
Oh, 100.
Sorry.
Well, that looks like a holder position.
Yeah, that's a whole position. Is it
Right, is it
110?
110, Marion?
110, yes, sorry.
One's up.
So it's not funded. In last year, we had Judy Curran in that position temporarily, helping out. And then when Ashley was hired, she was hired in the dual role, and the instructions were to pay her out of one line. So all her salary is being taken out of the other line. In the event that there's a change in her employment, whether because she becomes full-time or what have you, the idea is that we have another employee who is going for their certification and was told that to give her incentive to go, that there would be $5,000 paid. I would like you to fund it. I don't know that it's a guarantee that we get paid. There's a lot of variables, but there is no funding in that line right now. And I think we need to have it. And what happened was, I believe it was brought to the attention of Ashley, but Ashley saw the line of 5,000 below it, but that's for the help we get each quarter from the
10
part-timer.
days each quarter, yeah, that's 10 days each
Why
quarter.
do I have a note that says it goes to the CFO line?
Yeah, that's where it was being drawn from.
No, there is nothing being paid to the CFO from the tax collector line right now. So the idea being, if there's a reallocation of that function, which we're definitely anticipating with the full-time hire, whether it's her or someone else, you're gonna need someone in the tax collector role, unless, or not. But just to be prudent, to allow yourselves the most flexibility to find, and the mayor recommends that as well. It's been requested by the department.
Do we know when she would get her accreditation, for lack of, because maybe
I
we could
think
fund
it's-
half a year's worth?
I think it's half a year's worth, but again, I don't know that, how it's gonna work.
Well, who made the,
I'm confused.
who made the,
Offer.
Promise.
who offered it, under what circumstances, and is the role required? I mean, tax collector sounds fairly important.
Yes,
So-
the role is required, and my understanding, it was both the mayor and the former administrator to entice a new
Former mayor,
employee.
current one.
Yeah, former mayor, to entice an employee to take classes, because at the time, there was a vacancy. This is when Elaine, which I can talk about her because she's no longer an employee, when Elaine was in that role, but she was being asked to take classes to become the clerk. So she switched gears and went over there, and they said, well, we're gonna have a vacancy here in the tax collector's office. Would you be interested in this role? And so classes were being taken with the anticipation that at some point, that would be that would be held by the person who's doing the classes. With that, I do know from conversations with our current tax collector that the idea was always to groom this other employee for that position. So, if you want to have a fuller discussion, we can always rice, but, I don't want to go much further after that. Again, it's a revised request from the department and a recommendation by the mayor for the 5,000.
So you're asking 145, 110 to be increased from zero funding to 5,000?
Will not increase, that's the new mayor's recommendation.
That's the new
So whether
mayor-
you
okay,
guys
was it-
want to take, yes, the mayor has recommended that, so whether you want to agree to that or reduce it or whatever you want to do, flag it, whatever you want to do.
And with the person who was taking this on, would they be working more hours in the week, or would this be a stipend that they collect and perform this role as part of their 35 hours?
I think at this point, I would like to rice, because I want to get into a fuller discussion, and I think I don't want to go much further into that.
Okay, let's talk tomorrow and we'll rice the person
Okay,
and
okay.
go that route. Yeah, let's not take any chances. Thank you. Anything else, Mary Ann?
Yes, let me just, bear with me. Okay, in the Uniform Construction Code, which is around page 22, 23, again, I have an updated version, and some accounts have been deleted, that's why it threw the pagination off. I think it's on your page 23.
What's the account number?
It's 8-01-22-195-300.
It's on page 23, gentlemen. Furniture and equipment.
All right, this is where, similar to another account where we don't have a copier line, this is where we charge copier rent. And what happened was last year, I don't know what was budgeted last year, but there was a copy machine which we weren't paying for last year. We moved over a police department copy machine, bottom line is there's monthly rent of $98.40, which amounts to $1,176. So that was the new requested and recommend. It was just overlooked because the building department did
You said
not give me any budget.
$1,076, Marion?
$1,176.
So $1,200?
Yeah,
Around.
or 1176 will be exact if you want to do 1,200.
And that's the mayor's new recommend?
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Okay.
If there's a copier there, we might as well pay for it.
Anything else, Marion?
Yes, and in that, just looking, this is one where I saw that some of the lines didn't match up to what is being spent. So for instance, jumping up the page to the first line under other expenses, the 195-210, you had budgeted 300. In actuality, what's been charged to that line, well, in part, it was because printing was charged to that line, and it was, but printing's a separate line item. So I think if you can change, if you move the printing up,
The 750?
yeah, up to office supplies, or I can just reallocate the printing down, but it made me think that maybe we just want to combine the two.
So you want to zero delete one of the lines?
Yeah, I think put the printing forms in the office supplies.
So the 750 will
So
go up.
add the 750 up top,
So we're going to zero delete 470
yes. And
and
you
make
probably,
1,050.
you could even probably make it 1,000.
Well, we approved it, so we might as well make it 1,050.
Okay, so I'm just gonna
1,050.
change those.
So
I'll
it's
change,
195-210 becomes 1,050, and zero delete of printing 470.
yes, and I'll change the mayor's recommend to the same.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes, let's see. Okay, for the police overtime, I had asked the chief for this information today. I know that Bob
What number are we
had-
on?
Oh, sorry, it's page 24, I believe, would be your 8 dash,
24120.
yeah, 24120.
Yeah.
How easy it is to find.
Okay, Bob had asked for how it would be impacted by the dispatch. And the chief said in the first year, it's really hard to tell how it's going to work. I said, well, we talked about various scenarios. Well, you figure out how many hours your dispatchers are now going to work. And he said, right now, you can't tell because it's not a specific line item in their overtime sheets as to what is used to cover the desk. So it's very difficult to put a handle on it. So he didn't feel comfortable giving you any kind of number. And Bob, to your question about why the rate seemed lower on the sheets he gave you, he said that's because some of the overtime is not actually paid. It's comp time, so you can't take the amount paid divided by the hours to get a rate because the amount of time isn't paid out in dollars, you know what I'm saying? So there's a component that's taken as comp time. So you were taking the total hours of overtime and the total amount paid, but not all of it was paid, so that's why your rate was coming up to be 60 instead of what we talked about being, or 50, and we talked about the average rate being about 90. So I don't know that we're gonna have any better way of gauging it other than what I had done, which was taking the actual of last year and increasing it by the average increase of 3.57%. And rounding up.
Has the fourth dispatcher been hired, Mr. Mayor?
Imminently, but not yet.
So you have interviewed a person?
Yes, yes,
So it should be soon?
yeah.
And that'll bring us up to full staff at the dispatcher desk.
It'll bring us up to full staff, and then we just have to work out switching them to the 12-hour shifts that will make it happen. But we'll have all the people we need.
When do we plan on shifting to 12-hour shifts?
We're thinking June, July 1st at the latest.
On that note, I just received information in the discussions that switching them to just so you know, full information, I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do, but switching to Pittman, it will involve a pay increase, not necessarily just at if you took, like because I was talking to him today, you take the salary and you divide it by the number of hours, and then you pay them that same rate for the extra hours. They said, no, that's considered overtime now, so they get time and a half for those extra hours. So.
Over how many hours? 8?
No, yeah, whatever it is, because it's a 40-hour, they work 12 hours, and they have more days, but they work more hours, so it's just something that down, I guess I'll speak to the mayor when we
Well,
get
you
to
gotta
the
figure that out.
salary and wage.
You might want to hire a fifth person,
Hold it. Wait, wait.
because it's just, that whole area has been muddled for years, because you can't figure out who's on the desk, what rate they're getting, who's getting comp time. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, and at least by getting dispatchers in there, you have some semblance of what the rate is. Okay, you're only really dealing with 4 bodies or 5 bodies, but then when you add anything over the 8 hours, now it becomes more complicated. So I would suggest it might be cheaper and more beneficial morale-wise to have a fifth person on the rotation.
I'll get clarification on it. How it was explained to me is the 4 full-timers with just a per diem person on standby
Right.
is the better way to go. Because
Okay.
then you're not paying overtime.
No, that's
and
fine.
like that.
Yeah.
That's
But
fine.
we'll get clarification on
Well,
it.
it wasn't contemplated, I think they were thinking that the rate of pay, what you'd have to pay them, you wouldn't be paying them overtime, but your rate of pay would be that kicker for their boost in their salary for committing to the Pittman schedule would include at an overtime rate. So we're premature right now, but it came up in a discussion. But if you can, I think unless you still want to push, the chief was unable to give me any further details. So if you can decide on that one line, that would be great today, the OT line.
And his best number is the 182?
Wait, no,
282, I'm sorry.
No, he did 275, and I actually did a detailed, I don't know where he pulled that number from, but I felt that was too light, given the fact that the average increase is 3.57%, and the actual is 272. When he did this, the actual is not 272. But the mayor and I, when I showed him my analysis, he felt the 282 was would be more reasonable.
Yeah, and I don't remember which came first, whether we looked at this line item and then we upped the training, because training unfortunately generates overtime also.
I don't think we
Well, that was the
charge.
Wasn't that the discussion that we expected to see a decrease in overtime? And the chief indicated that wasn't to be the case because of the amount of mandated training that's being required. So, and that the majority of the time, the overtime is not driven off of coverage of the desk, it's driven off of the training, which he anticipated going up. At least that was my recollection of the discussion.
That's what I recall.
Marion, maybe you, me, and the chief can sit tomorrow and recap these couple of things?
Certainly. This I feel comfortable talking about. It's another line in the budget, it's page 25, if not 26, 25-240-193, special officers.
Yep.
He has reduced his request to 2,500 based on some decisions that have been made from the 10,000. He said that gets him 100 hours at $25 an hour. I don't know if Peter wants to change his.
I don't until I talk to him.
Okay.
Because to me, this is a bargain to use special officers
Well, I think with all the
wherever we
new events that are coming up, with all the
Yeah, so
town
I
music
wanna-
days.
I'd like to
and- yeah.
hear
Well, that's
why
what he said. He thought
why he's
100
rethinking
hours
this.
was plenty, though.
I'd like to hear it from him. Since
Okay, so
he and I came up with this originally, and now for him to drastically take it down.
Well, that was because there was other planned uses for them that's no longer going to happen.
Yeah, but
Okay.
if you're using special officers for all these events at $25 an hour versus a patrol officer at $50, $60 an
Sure.
hour, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you get the overtime that kicks in again.
And then if we're doing construction, we're gonna have construction details out there, possibly, who knows, right? Use specialists for those.
Well, remember, construction,
Is-
is a profit generator for the.
Right, but I'm saying.
Not our own, he's saying our
Right.
own construction.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
oh.
our own stuff, not,
Okay, sorry,
not outside.
sorry.
And then 25-240-400 on page 27. There was a flag for the safety equipment and uniforms.
Yep.
He doesn't need to, I guess the question was, does he need to increase it because of a planned use for specials and hiring them? And he said no, so he said that would be okay.
So he's okay with the $3,000 request and recommend?
Yes.
I'm okay with it.
Gentlemen, you okay with it? The chief says it's okay? 240-400?
Okay. He's gonna let me know, what did he say? Okay, no, page 28, possibly 29, 22, 25, 240, 810, computer software.
Yep.
All right, he originally I guess you flagged it because he was possibly gonna look into scheduling program.
Yes.
And he said that he's gonna wait until 2019 for that, and that the 500 is fine.
Can we talk to him about that? Because that was
Yeah,
a big,
I mean,
that was a big discussion we had, and it
Yeah.
seemed like they needed it to do this new
Yeah, we
scheduling.
get more
and everything.
efficient scheduling.
More efficient scheduling and.
Why did the, yeah, I want to talk to them
Okay,
about that.
that's fine. I mean, I just,
I'd put that in capital, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can, computer,
usually software you can't so
Software.
much.
well,
No, I mean, what
We had
happened was.
such a big discussion about it
Right.
from
that's
Tim.
gonna save you tons of
Yeah.
scheduling headaches.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's funny, I wasn't there that night, that was the one meeting I missed, and I called him up about the overtime, and next thing, he and Captain Hackbarth were in my office, and we were discussing all the lines, so that's where I had, and Sue was sitting in the office too, because I didn't have full notes. So, okay. The dispatching, he gave me a sheet that I'll share with the mayor, and then I guess we'll figure out if we're gonna give that to you, because I haven't had time to evaluate that. Let me just go to the DMF, there were just a few things over there.
So what is the move to a 12-hour shift, that's strictly for dispatching?
Yes.
And how, are they paid, or are there benefits based on regular employee benefits, or are they?
They're not a union, are they?
No,
No,
not
no,
union.
they're not.
No, they're township employees.
Okay.
We might have to make a few adjustments in the employee manual to accommodate this new 12-hour shift because of, you know, they work holidays and typical township employees don't. So there might be a few things that we add into the employee manual to address these 12-hour shifts.
Okay.
There should be a state law, what they can do and not do, right?
Got me, but
Yeah, there is.
we'll look into it.
So the 12, I guess, perhaps I wasn't focused, or in terms of the impact, after 8 hours, we're saying that they go to OT?
No,
No.
no.
It's just a way to
This
figure
OT
out
thing
how
is
you
new to
adjust
me,
their
but
pay for more
It was
hours.
explained to me.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah, that I had heard that they work, when you compare the two, 12-hour, 3-day-a-week, but the rotation, they end up working more hours than a 35-hour-a-week person. And so that has to just be adjusted into the salary. It's not overtime.
Right.
But it requires just a slightly higher salary because they're working more hours than
Okay.
a standard person.
all right.
I mean, that's how it was explained to me.
I have a whole sheet, but I'll share it with Peter, hasn't had a chance to look at it yet.
You said you had something in DMF, Marion?
Yes, I want to let you know, the sign expense, I asked Bill, I said we were waiting on to prices for stop signs, I believe that was what's holding it up.
Yep.
He said he was gonna get the price of one sign, and that the police department's gonna compile a list, but will not be done for a while, so I don't know if it's gonna be done prior to the budget. So if
Can you get us the price for one in a post, and then we'll determine?
and you want to determine how many you're gonna do, like, you know,
We do it
20
over a
times?
number of
or-
years
yeah.
if
Yeah,
need be,
well,
but at
can
least
the
let's
police
start.
department just tell us how many stop signs we have, or does somebody have that number?
I think, how many they have altogether, the
Yeah.
entire, so you want to redo all of them?
They all
Well,
have to be-
potentially over a 2 or 3 year
Yeah,
plan.
well,
Okay, they all have to get done? Okay, I didn't realize that,
To bring
okay.
up to standard.
So, I
Maybe
will,
one or two here or
I
there.
will
that-
refine my request to the police to just, if for the time being, give me a number, and then they can identify ones
We could,
that are high
we could create some kind
priority.
of a plan, gentlemen, right? If it's
Right.
okay to replace them all?
Okay, line item, uniform and safety equipment, it's the next one below that. I got.
What
a
page
number-
are you on?
It's the next line below what we were just talking about. It's 290, 400, 26, 290, 400.
37 towards the bottom.
$290,400, yes.
Okay, I got an actual quote of $1,093.10 for a litany of goggles, gloves, so on and so forth.
Well, we left 2,000.
Two? Oh, we did? I
Well,
thought we flagged it.
well, it's flagged, it's there, if they need 1,000 off the bat, or 1,100 off the
2,000.
bat. I mean, unless you want to change it, I would say leave it, I mean.
2,000?
You okay with that, Mr.?
What was your number, Marion? I'm sorry, I didn't.
1,093 and 10.
109.30.
And that's for safety glasses, leather palm work gloves, leather palm work.
I mean, if the council's okay, I'd rather leave it as a cushion in case they forgot
I
anything
think
for
you're right,
safety,
yeah,
you
okay.
know.
Gentlemen, we okay with leaving 2,000 there for 290,400?
Yes.
Yes.
Too, right?
Yeah, well, they're gonna need shipping equipment, yeah. Visor, full mask, Bob, you know?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Leather chaps,
Chip of shoes.
Kevlar chaps,
Kevlar chaps, yeah.
right?
Easy.
No, I said,
I need them for my chainsaw.
Stick to the budget.
That's the president speaking.
it's late, Mr. Burrows.
I think that's all I have.
On that note, I think that's good that that's all you have.
So are we good, gentlemen,
Did you want
9:30?
to put that director number here?
Yes, can we put a placeholder? Well, we didn't get a consensus, I asked him for the next meeting, but if everybody
Well, I
is,
just have a question. I'll ask Mary Ann. I'm just looking where I thought I would put that, which is on page 49.
The seniors?
371,000. And I see that there's for Golden Seniors for the activities and exercise, and then there's no control after that.
They're separate control items, those two, because one's a grant program, one's not.
One's a what? I'm sorry?
One's a grant
Oh, okay, so
program,
it's
so
totally
you would
separate.
do a whole new line like 28373-00.
Director of Senior and Veteran Affairs?
And that has to be a separate control because
You actually,
you have to put it in one or the other, right? Which one's the grant? The exercise program?
yeah, so it's,
That's
one of them's a
that's a
salary, it has to become a salary line. I think we would do a whole new 373, so then we could make it salary. Or, it's actually, I think the way it's set up, seniors is under, or maybe just in the budget. I thought seniors was part of recreation.
Well, I think we should take out all seniors out of recreation and
And get it there separate.
give them their separate line item.
I mean, it's just.
It's six, yeah, it's,
I just didn't understand why there wasn't a control. So the control item. three
Those are
lines down,
separate
0,
controls.
0.
Those are
That's all.
actually controls.
Well, then, maybe it should be denoted each one's controlled. Senior activity control, exercise program control. Is that-
We don't usually put a control there. You just know because there's nothing under the
Is it
same.
denoted by the 000 suffix that it's its
Yeah.
own control?
Yes, I believe it.
Exactly, and the
Okay.
fact that there's nothing
Just in
below
looking
it.
at it, that's
yeah,
what
when
I'm
it's 000,
guessing,
it's all
yeah.
control. Okay, anything else, gentlemen? Are we good for Saturday at 9:30?
And-
Yes.
and So will you change that wording if we want to take care of any other
I'm going to
business?
talk to Ken tomorrow about it.
Okay.
So we'll meet again for a budget session Saturday at 9:30, March 24th?
Works for me.
I may not be here. I got an interview.
Well, that's going to be a problem because we got two missing then.
Don't increase anything. Simple. I see no problem with that.
Yeah, but if we want to increase, we can wait and have one more meeting, but
Do you want to wait till?
Call you want.
Well, you have to have the information. If you don't have the information.
Correct, so you think we'll have it Saturday, Mr.
like I
Mayor?
said, I expect to have 95%, if not 100.
Yeah, and just so you know, today I asked Ashley, I said, I was giving her information, which before you all leave, I have your email instructions. I was saying to her, this is how you access your email now, and by the way, there's something from the mayor today following up with you on your, she goes, what do you mean? I sent that to him already. And I said, no, it was blank. She goes, it was blank? It was filled out.
Oh.
So then I went.
Was yours blank too? Because she had
Yes.
sent it to you?
Yes.
I thought she just said, is this the format you wanted in?
Exactly. That's what I
Right.
thought. She goes, I thought the same thing. She goes, why didn't you say anything? I said, I
Yeah.
thought we were just going over the format.
Oh, okay.
So then I went to go to her desk, but what happened was her files hadn't migrated, because they were shared on her desktop, whatever. So he was recovering those when I left, and I
Okay.
didn't get a chance, but hopefully it's on her desktop, otherwise she's
So
recreating it.
we will not be meeting on Saturday at 9:30, gentlemen?
Well,
Well, here's the problem, if you, just so
I
you
mean,
know,
how about the following Monday is instead of Saturday?
well, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
gotta,
but you gotta wrap it up because then you gotta.
Yeah,
get figures
the
to-
firm needs but they've already started it thinking that what I gave them the first time was the final. I said, no, that was not even near the final one. I said that in the caveat.
Saturday's the 24th. We want to meet next Monday? That'll give them,
Next weekend?
Yeah,
Palm
the coming
Sunday,
weekend
Palm
is
Sunday, Palm Sunday is this coming weekend.
Yeah.
So do we want to meet Monday?
No. Oh, yeah, Palm Sunday is this weekend. Yeah,
Yes.
Easter is the following
Right.
weekend.
So it's either the 24th or the 26th,
Yes.
is what we're saying?
So Mr. Castro can't make the 24th, and Mr. Bruno can't make the 24th.
The 26th, I can stay till about 9 o'clock. Then I would have to scoot out at 9.
It's the earliest you can start.
I'm unsure because I don't know if I have interviews in the morning and the afternoon. I don't know what pool I'm in. I'll try and find out tomorrow what
Okay.
it is. I'll let you know. I'll let you know by tomorrow night.
All right. We'll get back to scheduling next meeting.
Okay.
What's happening with the email?
I have
think
it.
Mary Ann has the
I have the information.
instructions.
You have one?
Okay.
It might, we changed
Are we
providers.
motion
I
to
have it.
adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
I haven't gotten an email in 3 days.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Here.
You've been missing it?